Hello, good evening, and welcome to another episode of Fleapit After Dark, a nighttime podcast devoted to films off the beaten path, as my guest has mentioned before, and of the cult variety. I'm, of course, your distinguished and astute host of the show, Jeremy Brown, and I'm overjoyed to have this guest return to talk some movies tonight. He is the host of Zoobox, a podcast about nonsense. Zoobox Goes to the Movies, Nightcap, Ride or Die, and plenty more complimentary programs. Shaun Deegan, welcome back. How are you doing, brother?
Hey, man. What's going on, Jeremy? I'm doing great. I'm excited to talk about the movie we're going to talk about. It's also just good to see you again. It's been a couple months, so.
Yeah, no, I think we just kind of keep whirling back as we just do the same things again and again.
Jeremy is also, he's been on my podcast a couple times too, and it's some of my favorite episodes, actually. We did, I think, a couple really good episodes, so yeah.
Yeah, we did, 28 Days Later and 12 Angry Men, all numbered. I think we're just going to do, like, any movie that has a number in the title is going to be the theme.
Next time you come on Zoobox Goes to the Movies, we'll do that Jim Carrey. What is it, like 24 or something like that? What is that?
Number 23.
23, yeah. The Schumacher joint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, rest in peace, Joel Schumacher. That was this year or last year?
No, I think it was last year, yeah. Joel Schumacher.
Yeah, gosh.
That's an interesting director. Not to get too much on a tangent, but he's an interesting guy. He's like because he's essentially a journeyman.
Yeah.
But a solid journeyman. Like, he's just a guy who knows how to put together a story and can kind of touch any genre and any style, pretty much. I mean, he kind of ran the gamut in his career, but
yeah.
He put the man who put nipples on Batman.
Yeah.
No.
We get to see Batman's ass. What?
Look at those buns.
We're more of a Christmas theme here, I guess, because it's the holidays. It's the time to be celebrating movies like what have you, The Ref, or Reindeer Games, the most unconventional kinds of movies you probably wouldn't put on as often as something like How the Grinch Stole Christmas or something. And I was doing some deep digging, and I realized I had never seen The Silent Partner before. And it was a good segue for me because I had gone off the high, as I told you earlier, from The Long Goodbye. Elliot Gould is like as prime time age and just kind of like coasting through movies during the 70s. And this is a little Canadian production that he started in 1978 called The Silent Partner, directed by Daryl Duke, written by Curtis Hanson, and based on the novel Think of a Number, with a score by Oscar Peterson and a cast: Elliot Gould, Christopher Plummer, Susannah York, Selene Gomez, Michael Kirby, and everyone's favorite little MVP, John Candy.
The Silent Partner. Who are you and what do you want from me?
I am not a cop, if that's what you're afraid of.
A crime of sheer genius that builds to a climax of sheer terror.
He doesn't suspect?
Not at all. He will tell me soon.
When the telephone rings, the terror begins.
Hello? Hello?
You're doing it to her like you did it to me.
What?
Think of where to run. Think of how to hide. Think of how to escape. The Silent Partner.
I don't know how you managed to pull it off. Well, I guess you're going to have to tell me one of these days. But we worked it together, didn't we?
I thought I knew you. You've changed.
I'm going to kill you, so help me. I'm going to kill you.
Starring Elliot Gould, Christopher Plummer, and Susannah York.
One night, when you come home, you'll find me on the inside, and that'll be the night you'll wish you'd never been born.
It was the only way to make him the Silent Partner.
Isn't this his first screen credit, isn't it?
It's got to be at least one of his first ones.
Yeah. I always, because when I went back to watch it for this, I always forget that he's in the movie because he kind of has, he's like a background player, but it's a really interesting, and maybe I'm sure we'll get into it, like what's going on with his character in the background of the movie. That's pretty funny, actually.
Yeah, it's for a Canadian production, and I assume that this film did really well given the Canadian government's stance on what was allowed to be a very successful film at the time. Did pretty well. It seemed to do well with critics. It did well with audiences. Came and went.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because I read up a little bit about this, and it was the first movie ever financed by the Canadian government. They have like, you know, a specific kind of entitlements for like the arts programs, and this was like one of the first ones that ever used that program. And it did okay. It did pretty okay in Canada, but when they brought it to, I think, Europe, it didn't do very well at all. And then when they came to the United States, there was a few like U.S. critics, Roger Ebert and Siskel and Ebert being two of them, that actually championed the movie to help it get some eyeballs on it. And it ended up doing pretty well. It was like one of those indie limited release, 1 week only engagement type movies back in 1978. Or actually, probably 1979, actually, by the time it made it to the United States. Because back then, that's how indie movies were, you know? They would travel around cities. They weren't just everywhere or on VOD, I suppose, now.
Well, because one of the first things I was thinking of when I was watching it was probably David Cronenberg's career at the time too, because he was pretty much an indie guy at the time.
He came up right after this, and he also used the Canadian government money. Actually, I think when he did The Brood and Scanners, I know specifically because he talks about it in the supplements for Scanners, where he's just like, they had to turn that movie around in like 8 months. They had nothing. They didn't even have an idea. They had no script. They had nothing. And they were just like, and they said, well, we can give you this money if you can get a movie done in this time. And of course, he's like, sure, we'll figure it out.
What ideas do I have written down? Okay, we'll do this one.
Yeah. Actually, if anybody's interested, not to be like self-promote or anything, there is an old episode of Zoobox Goes to the Movies about Scanners. We talk about that.
Nice. It's classic. I have that one on Criterion.
Oh, me too. I got it. Yeah. I think I got it during quarantine when all the labels were having sales because everybody was at home.
Yeah. Definitely one of the better covers too. Like, I know we shit on a lot of Criterion's covers now,
good. But it's cool. And the menu screen, the way the menu screen works with all like the digital effects and like the changing pictures, the mosaic effect, it's really cool.
Yeah, definitely. This is an interesting one where it's not. The Silent Partner is not a film you or I had watched previously up until this year. We kind of discovered it on a whim, and I assume both of us really liked it. What was your first impression, and then revisiting it, what was it now, I guess, as we start to dive into the movie?
I the first time I saw it, like, I enjoyed it. It's one of those movies because it touches on so many different like genres almost. Like, it is actually, in a lot of ways, in my opinion, it was like a true successor to Hitchcock style of filmmaking without feeling like a Hitchcock ripoff. Like, you know, Brian De Palma obviously is often criticized for kind of lifting wholesale Hitchcock stuff. But this is more like the spirit of Hitchcock. And I remember recognizing that like the first time I watched it. But even then, you kind of you respond a little bit, maybe superficially to like the production itself. And maybe I just was, because I liked it, but I didn't like love it. But when I watched it this time, I really, really liked it. Like, I really loved it.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, a testament. I have this rule, a personal rule. If I ever bounce off of a movie or if I feel like kind of lukewarm about something, I will always go back and revisit it because you never know. And I really, really loved it because I think once you watch it multiple times, you can really see how the mechanics of the plot and the character development is working. Because it's a movie that it's very fast paced, and it's really the characters, the way that their arcs go is like very subtle, almost imperceivable, like in the way that they're changing, like especially like Elliot Gould's character. And I thought it's like interesting to have a movie full of characters that are almost all of them are unlikable to one degree or another. Like, everybody is unscrupulous. That's a note that I made. Like, everybody's kind of unscrupulous here. Everybody's duplicitous. There's all gradations of duplicity involved with every single character that we spend any time with in the movie, which I thought was interesting. But yeah, I really loved it. Really, really loved it coming back to it. And it's something like, even after I watched it twice in the past couple of days, and I was just like, I could watch this again. I just really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's you bring up one good point about just like all of the characters and how they're all so interwoven and so kind of in their own way a little bit despicable
Yeah.
to some degree. And I love that even just from basic screenwriting 101 rules, like they all want something too, in the middle of this. They'll have like some sort of driving purpose to kind of keep them around. Even John Candy's character who just wants to get married.
Yeah, and he really only mumbles a few lines, but if you're paying attention, there is a little character story going on in the background there. Yeah.
Yep.
Which also maps to the other characters. This duplicity.
Yeah. Miles Cullen, the Elliot Gould character, like is surprised that like they rush so quickly into it. Like he even says it. Like, hey, hello.
How have your feelings evolved on it at all, or like have you kind of felt the same way from the first time to this time, or?
Well, so I was gonna do a full rewatch today before we recorded this, but I was waiting on the Blu-ray to arrive in the mail. I've got it here now, but it arrived just 2 hours too late. I wanted to listen to the commentary track just to kind of get another sense of what 3 film historians have to say about it. But I myself, like, I kind of went into it blind the first time, and again, kind of off of that, the long goodbye sort of high, and just thinking, I don't know, Elliot Gould, he's just so slick in this decade. He's just so fly, so cool, badass. And some of that still shines in this character here. He's very unpredictable, which is what I kind of love first and foremost.
Yeah, he's an enigma from like the moment like you see him. Actually, his first like impulse in the movie is like counterintuitive. Because when he finds the bank slip with the I have a gun, and his mind immediately goes to like, where did this come from, and how can I use it to my advantage?
Yeah. But that kind of builds though too, because then as you get to kind of know his workplace environment a little bit more, and how kind of like, I don't know, for lack of a better word, just how kind of lame just like that working lifestyle is, and how he kind of recognizes that. Like, of course, he immediately just goes for the impulse to just say like, yeah, what can I do about this? I mean, where could if I could just take a bunch of money from this bank and just hightail it, why not? Yeah.
Well, like it kind of goes part and parcel with his job is the way his character responds to everything. He's a very detail-oriented person. Like he notices the little things. That's how he figures out who Christopher Plummer is before Christopher Plummer comes in and tries to rob the bank. So like, he's figured that out. That's why he realizes like, oh, I can rob this place.
Yeah.
And that's strewn out the whole movie. And there's like lots of like little character details, like he's got a fish tank with the exotic fish in it. That's something that you have to be very like a meticulous, patient person to really like take care of animals like that. There's little instances with the chessboard and the chess pieces and stuff. And when he's calling Susannah York for the first time, and he throws the pieces all over the floor, and he puts up the pawn and stares at the pawn, which is a little on the nose, but sure. But there's little things that kind of inform the type of person he is. And that's what a lot of the stuff that I picked up on repeat viewings was things like that. How much there actually is there, like built into the environment, like so much environmental storytelling that maybe went over my head like the first time I watched it. Like I just wasn't maybe paying close enough attention or whatever. But it was something I really came to respect. I was like, oh wow, this is really like well crafted. Maybe more than I had given it credit for the first time I saw it.
Well, that was kind of something I was thinking about, and I might be jumping ahead here quite a bit, but there's a moment where all of his fish die, basically. There's a big accident that happens out. We'll get into that part later, but Ellie Gould over the phone, like he acts like he just doesn't even care that happened. Like this was his like legacy, raising these exotic fish. He's got to have all these like crazy fish smells going off around the room, but like this is just how he's living his life. And then he just, once it's all gone and like circumstances kind of show themselves, like he just doesn't seem to really mind when it does happen.
He's like and I don't know if this would be like an overstatement, but there is like this little like sociopathic, narcissistic thing with his character.
Yeah.
Especially like with his relationship with Susannah York, and then later, I'm forgetting her name, Elaine, and later with Elaine. Like, there's like this weird opportunistic quality about it like the whole situation, every element of his life is like an opportunity to do something shady almost. Like it's just constantly as presented in the movie, you know. And I think that's part of the fun of a story like this is kind of navigating the waters and actually having to like spend time with a protagonist that is a little amoral.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he doesn't really have this great like ethical code to him. He's just kind of going with whatever presents him with the most opportunity, I suppose.
Yeah, and whatever that may be, he'll discover it once everything works out. And I think this kind of throws off Christopher Plummer's Harry Reichel character, who was expecting just a very normal day-to-day by the book bank teller to just give up the money he wants. Actually, this is one thing I was never. I guess if I have one slight criticism, but also thing I think is somewhat complimentary to the film, is that like Christopher Plummer, he is shrouded in a lot of mystery. I don't quite know why he wants this money right off the bat, and why he just has like these tendencies to just randomly be a fucking misogynistic like.
Well, I think he's like. I think it's just like, well, he's a psychopath.
Yeah.
Like
A psychopath.
Kind of, yeah. He's a misogynistic psychopath, and it's interesting because they draw that parallel between Reichel and Cullen. They're kind of similar people.
Yeah.
Just Reichel is insane, and Cullen is able to still function as a normal person. He's not completely a slave to these kind of these primal instincts or his primal nature. Like he's a mannered person. He believes like he lives in the confines of rules, and that's also part of like his journey as a character is breaking, like you had said before, the mundanity of his life. He's trying to break out of these patterns of behavior that he's in, and this is kind of like a wild adventure that takes him beyond whatever he's done before. But I do think there is actually like a parallel to their characters if you really were to start really thinking about it, and it's something that Reichel even kind of recognizes. And in fact, you could suggest that the title Silent Partner is also kind of making an allusion to that they are kind of similar in some ways. Because Cullen kind of is also like a little bit of a womanizer.
Yep.
He's a little bit of a cad like that. Obviously, not quite like Reichel when he's beating up chicks in the sauna and cutting off people's heads. But
they're silent partners, Shaun.
Yeah. But what did you actually? What do you think of Christopher Plummer in this?
He's good. He's quite excellent here. I think he kind of, I think he started to veer more into this kind of territory later in the 80s and 90s. So this was probably kind of new for him to play. I guess just like a very dirty, rotten scoundrel of a human being.
Yeah, because he goes kind of broad a little bit. It's a little broad, little telegraphed. But I was really having fun with it though.
Yeah.
I just kind of like all of his like silly. It's almost like a silly character, like when just as like in a meta sense, watching it as an audience.
He also has.
I was just laughing most of the time, not like laughing at it. Like I felt like I should be kind of laughing because he's so like kind of chewing the scenery a little bit, you know, in a way that I thought was like perfectly pitched for the movie that he was in, the character that he's playing, and the characters that he's playing opposite of, because everybody else is so kind of natural and straight laced. And then there's this really wild card, you know, of Reichel.
Yeah, he almost in many ways kind of feels like a very like effeminate like Bond villain in some ways, in some respect, because he's very graceful in his mannerisms. And
I think they're implying that he's gay, or that he's at least bisexual at the very least.
Yeah.
Because he's wearing like a mascara, like clearly wearing mascara when he's not like he's not in disguises or anything. He's just walking around. Mm-hmm. I think that is what they were implying. I would have to imagine.
Well, I wonder if that even plays into just like all the costumes and disguises. Like, does he just really like doing drag as well? If that's just
I like how he, the final disguise, the dignified woman.
Yeah,
he like throws his hair back. Get me the money. Get me the money.
Let's do this already. But yeah, no, I thought like he definitely, in terms of the star power and like what I'll probably take away the most from the performances, he's definitely the more interesting one in terms of just the mystery surrounding his character, how he behaved. I was gonna bring up the sauna scene too, because it seems like that whole group of people knew who he was and knew that he's done this before, they all kind of acted like, oh, he's
like shit.
Harry's at it again.
Yeah. Yeah, because I was watching it actually this last time I watched it. I'm like, why doesn't anybody do anything? They just let him walk out. I guess that's just like he's like, oh, you know how I am.
Yeah.
The big score did not go as planned.
Yeah.
Although I'll say Plummer makes a good Santa. You know, I like him as Santa. when he's in the mall and they're coming up the escalator, I really like the reveal of him.
Yeah.
And I like how it reveals it in layers. Like it's a little subtle. Like the camera does not focus on him immediately because you're just watching Elliot Gould or Cullen go to work, and then it comes back to it a few times. Yeah, I thought it was actually pretty fun. Actually, it's like, you know, that's the thing about this movie. It's like a fun movie to watch.
Yeah,
it's got like a real energy and a cool pace to it, and it's got like that great kind of noir laziness about it. It's like even a little lackadaisical in the middle because you're like, you know, you stole all this money and this guy might be trying to kill you, but like Colin's pretty cool. Like he's like, yeah, you know, whatever, going to my friend's wedding. I'm trying to hook up with this other girl. You know, things are all right.
it is kind of crazy how much it goes through the whole movie so quickly as it does, because there's not a whole lot of action going on. I mean, there's a lot of suspense probably, or even just a lot of intrigue and espionage, or however you want to put it, just going on between each of these characters and not quite understanding or getting into their heads fully. They could just flip a switch and like turn on somebody else just in a heartbeat, and you would miss it if you're not careful.
Yeah.
I even this is going off on a side note, but you know, I can't remember many cases up until maybe the 80s where you would see a Santa Claus figure in such negative light holding a gun and things like that, because this was before Silent Night, Deadly Night. This was before Christmas Evil, or even
I was gonna say, was it before Christmas Evil?
Yeah, or even A Christmas Story, which shows Santa just like kick a kid down a slide. But yeah,
yeah, I guess probably a little bit, right? Yeah, it probably is. Yeah,
I don't know, something to think about, but I do kind of appreciate it, because it's like, it's apart from that whole sequence with Christopher Plummer disguised as the head honcho, the big fat man. I don't really get Christmas vibes from this movie, really, apart from that. Like I more and more, I was just more involved and more intrigued by what was going on in the moment, and I wasn't thinking about the season really. Although I would definitely watch this on Christmas anytime.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think the Christmas thing is just the backdrop, because it's I mean, it's like it's brought up in the context of them going to parties and stuff like that, but it's not really like a focal point of the movie, which is a shame. No, I'm just joking.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's I think it's just there. It's there for like flavor. It makes it the verisimilitude of the world. It makes it feel like you're in a place that's real and alive, and people are there and things are happening. You kind of get a sense of this kind of background life of the world that's going on. And I think something like that is just a boon when you're making, especially these low budget indie movies. Mm-hmm. Like anything that kind of draw your attention or give an audience something that they recognize. They recognize that from their everyday life. It's like sense memory, and they just get locked into that reality, because everybody's probably been to a mall where they've seen a Santa.
Yeah.
Like even just something that superficial, something that can add to the reality of the movie. You know, just something anything to latch onto, you know?
Yeah.
So I think it probably works in that way. We're just to kind of draw you into the story a little bit, because it's intriguing. Like it's intriguing to see a guy try to rob a bank dressed as Santa Claus. It's just provocative, like just on its face. It just is.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh wow, this is something different. Like I haven't seen something like this before. Especially, and I also love it that it's like a shitty mall branch of a bank. Yeah. Like, you know, because I remember, you know, it's probably not so much nowadays. I can't even remember the last time I stepped foot in a bank. Probably when I opened my bank account like 6 years ago.
Yeah, I can.
Or my newer bank account rather. I've had bank accounts, folks. I haven't been off the grid. But yeah, like it's I growing up, I remember like that's what banks looked like, even back in like the mid 90s. Like that's just the way banks looked, like this very boring, plain, like aesthetically neutral places. The most boring place on earth, even though there's just tons of money there, which you think would be exciting, but not really.
Well, even the Miles character has to like put on this very kind of cold and sort of removed sort of performance, even as a bank teller, even beyond like if he's not just doing a performance as he's like sneaking things through one security deposit to the next. He has to be like, oh, do you want to open a checking account? I can get that, just very, very flat, very.
Yeah.
Are you sure? Are you absolutely sure?
I've looked everywhere.
You realize we will have to call in a locksmith.
Stop smiling.
I'm sorry. A locksmith? Can't you just open the box?
It takes both keys, the bank's and yours. The locksmith will open it up, and then he'll put in a new lock.
I'd like to help her get into her box, eh?
Oh, how silly I've been. I'm terribly ashamed.
It adds to the fun of the movie. Like that's like it's actually a very funny movie. Like in its own way, because at some point it starts becoming a comedy of errors for like good hot like 30 minutes, from basically everything to do with the safety deposit box, like up until the fish tank incident. Like that's like it's kind of a silly movie. It's kind of light. Yeah. He's throwing the keys in the jam, and the maid came and she threw it away, and now he's gotta find a locksmith, and he's gotta get this girl and put on a wacky wig and come in. Like it's actually, it's just very entertaining.
Yeah. Well, because once it starts turning into this whole cat and mouse sort of scenario, there are points where I was just kind of laughing at other sort of scenarios that could have come in where, the first kind of confrontation over the phone, and Christopher Plummer says, should I come up or should you come down? If there would have been a moment where they just start running in circles and like they're both in like one's always in a different spot the whole time. And that kind of does play throughout the course of the script, because apart from any scenes where they're in the bank, those two characters, and their brief confrontation after they bury a body, they're completely in different spots the whole time. They never share the same room, which I always kind of liked as a sort of head-to-head detail with those two guys.
Yeah. No, it's cool because it makes it very suspenseful, right? Because you don't, especially with Plummer's character, you just like don't know where he's gonna be. You don't know where he is. And he has one of my favorite lines. He's like, "Don't hang up. I don't have any more nickels to call you back."
Yeah.
Like it's just there's some really fun stuff in there. There's some great little flourishes, some great little stuff. And I think a lot of that is just Plummer just like really committing and just going for it, because that first phone call when he first calls Cullen, like that's probably my favorite part of the movie. Honestly, like my favorite scene in a vacuum. I could just watch that scene. Where he points the gun at him. And he's like, what do you think I'm gonna do? Shoot you through the window? Come on, I'm just showing you that I have a gun.
Yeah. Come on, I was like, I'm not that brutal.
And then he comes in and just hit through the mail slot. His eyes.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up. Like that was like the main marketing, I guess, for this film. Yeah. Where it was like, oh, Christopher Plummer is gonna like look through your mail slot every night before Christmas.
Well, it's like a violation. It's that voyeuristic thing, like somebody's looking into your house, looking into your domicile, your private space. You're being violated.
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say it's just like it's like things like that, and then when you start really thinking about the mechanics of how they like built those scenes out in the script and in the probably in the I guess the post production and the editing, like it's just really well done. It's just really tight because it's able to get to those peaks and valleys of being like tense and then let you down a little bit with a joke before it gets tense again. And I feel like that's the whole movie's kind of like that. It's like a roller coaster ride. Like that scene in particular is like a microcosm. It's like a vertical slice of the entire movie.
Yeah. And again, like what we brought up with the Hitchcockian influence, Hitchcock did that all the time too. Like he would he would raise the stakes in one scene, and then the next scene you're dying laughing over just some random joke. I would say like a movie like North by Northwest does that, probably one of the most eloquent versions of that kind of style, where it's
100%. Yeah, especially with Cary Grant, because Cary Grant's really able to weave that kind of sensibility in, like being very serious and also being kind of light and silly.
Yeah.
Well, that's like kind of going back to the whole thing about this being like Hitchcockian, but not feeling like a rip off of a Hitchcock movie. No. It's because like Hitchcock is a guy who's his stories are very character centric. Like they're not really, the plots are kind of secondary. Like the tone and the pace of the movie is completely predicated on the types of characters that we're spending time with. great example would be like The Birds. What the fuck is The Birds about, right? Like nothing happens in The Birds. I love The Birds though, but it's because the characters are dictating everything. It's actually like a character piece more than it is about the plot. And I would even say Silent Partner is very much like that. It's really more about the characters than it is about the actual plot. There's a lot of fun business, like I said, about like, the safety deposit box keys and also just Elliot Gould like swapping the money out into the lunchbox and stuff. There's like a lot of business going on.
Yeah.
But it's all kind of, and it's almost just there to like, just almost like there to just be utilized as a tool for the characters. And that was the thing that struck me the most about it being like Hitchcockian, not so much like the way it was shot or the type of cameras they were using or the type of tricks, cinematography tricks they did, because that's kind of that's what De Palma did. De Palma was like all about like, yeah, I'm going to take all your visual cues. Like that was more of like De Palma's tact. And this feels much more in the tradition of like, there probably is a version of the Silent Partner that Hitchcock himself would have made.
Yeah. I'd say De Palma's got the one thing going for him where it's like he was experimenting a lot in the 70s, thinking, look at me, I can shoot with 2 different cameras at 2 different angles going on at the same time.
Yeah.
What can we do? What's the possibilities of something like this?
The dioptic, something or other.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I know. I mean, I love De Palma, by the way.
I do too.
I'm not saying that to trash De Palma. Like, Dress to Kill is like a really fun movie. Well, most of his movies are really fun. And I think he's maybe even a little underrated, because while he definitely wore his influences on his sleeve, he utilized it well. Like, he wasn't a slouch. But because actually Hitchcock himself actually saw this movie before he died. Elliot Gould.
I was gonna bring up that fun fact.
Elliot Gould showed him, and Hitchcock really liked it. Because if people don't know, Hitchcock was like really into hanging out with young filmmakers and writers and stuff at the end of his life. They would just go have lunch and talk for hours and hours and hours. John Landis has a lot of famous stories about hanging out with Hitchcock in the last couple of years of his life. Yes, murderer John Landis.
I was gonna say, like, boy, I can't wait to make this Twilight Zone movie. You're gonna...
Yeah, we're gonna do this crazy thing with a helicopter. You're not gonna believe it. Yeah. I'm gonna kill some people. But yeah, so it's cool. It's actually even cool, like recognizing that, and then also knowing that Hitchcock saw it and liked it. That's kind of cool. Just as a kind of a little fun factoid. Sorry, yeah. I didn't mean to steal your thunder. I apologize.
No, you're fine. I kind of lost my train of thought there for a second, but what was it? It was we were talking about De Palma and then all the other. I think this kind of speaks to the, because you were talking a lot about just how the plot kind of just coasts, where the characters are the ones that are the real standouts. It's the characters that are really driving this plot. You get the point of this movie 5 minutes in. Mm-hmm. You see the location. You get this whole Toronto, Canada mall backdrop. And if you need those signifiers, you can see that the currency is a different color, so it's not American dollars or anything. Yeah. You meet a bunch of these characters, including your antagonist. You get up to speed really quick, and then it's just mystery from what they're going to do next. And that's the thing that I like about the plot, is that, again, like, they're unpredictable. We don't know what even our main guy Miles is going to do in each scene.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, because Gould is so neutral.
Yeah.
Like, he's so cool that you don't really know how he's going to react to anything,
Yeah. Well, I love that he has this whole backstory about like how senile his father is, and then like the tragic death that occurs. And you get a sense that like you don't know the whole story there, or like what their connection was really like, but that he still went out of his way to see his father, regardless of what state of mind he was in, or where he was, or where they were religiously, or like what that whole family situation looked like. I love that little touch, and then how that kind of ingeniously, in a way, kind of like invites Elaine character. Selene Gomez plays her, this very seductive.
Oh yeah, she's nice. She's a nice looking lady.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie, I kind of fell in love myself.
Yeah, it was the accent, I think, that day. No.
Well, it's like I mean, but she's also really good. She's actually really good in the movie too, and she's another one of the characters that is able to kind of dance with the tone of the movie. like from being like very serious to being very light and flighty. And she does it very well. Actually, if I were to say there is a weak link in the chain here, it's probably Susannah York. And not because she's like particularly bad or anything like that, but I don't understand why they end up together at the end, or any of the attraction or anything between the two of them. Like they have, like, just from like two actors, some people just don't have chemistry. Like they don't really have very good chemistry. And I don't know if that's by design or if that's just the actors themselves. And I'm not super familiar with Susannah York. I think I've only seen like one or two other of her movies. One of them is actually a really great movie. If people haven't seen it, They Shoot Horses, Don't They? Sidney Pollack film from 1969. Yep. Also another episode of Ghosts of the Movies. So little self-plug there. But she would, to me, was the one that was kind of, if I were to say there's like a weak link in the chain, it's maybe just their relationship. I don't really understand it, I suppose. I don't understand why she would put up with him, or why he would be attracted to her. Unless, I guess, okay, well, hold on. Maybe I'm wrong here. Now that just in the moment here, I'm having a revelation here. Because Cullen is now starting to do dangerous, exciting things. So he wants to sleep with the woman that the bank manager is having an affair with. So I guess that's like probably, maybe that goes into what his new paradigm, like his new lease on life that he's engaged with. He's like, well, I'm going to rob this bank. Also going to steal the manager's mistress.
Well, yeah, he's living a little dangerously now, and she picks up on that very fast. And
well, she mentions it in the cab too. Like after the bank robbery, she's like, "Oh, aren't you excited? Does the danger excite you?"
Well, and it's funny that like he was so concerned for a while about him doing shady things behind the scenes at the bank and having her not know, even though I don't think in hindsight she would have told anybody, or even like she would have been.
Yeah. Oh, because you would have to assume that based on the way the movie ends. And I never understood why she would be like that, I suppose. Although I know she had kind of an axe to grind with the manager. They kind of briefly touch on that in terms of like, because Elliot Gould talks to her, Cullen. So I always call the actor. I never use the character names. I always use the actor names.
Yeah.
But Cullen's like, he's like, well, do you love him? Do you actually want to like be with him? She's like, no, I don't know. People do what they're going to do. I do. And I don't. But so I didn't feel like she had some sort of major axe to grind or something like that, where she would be like, oh, cool. You got $50,000 that you stole from the bank in this, in this leather briefcase. Like at the end of the movie, like that is what I'm really talking about. Like, I don't understand the end of the movie. Like, I'm just like, why would she in a billion years want to be with this dude? He's been kind of a creep to her.
Yeah.
He's let her on. He said some weird shit.
Just kissed her out of the blue just to like blow, so he doesn't blow his club cover when, Elaine makes her get away.
Yeah. It's a big awkward scene where, because, he's like, oh, I love you. And then he sees Elaine leave and he's like, oh, maybe I'll call you sometime.
Yeah. Come on, man.
Like, me personally, if somebody did that to me, I'd be like, we are never speaking again.
Yeah.
I have too much respect for myself. But I mean, I don't, maybe that might be unfair of me, now that I'm kind of like reflecting on a little bit more as we're talking, but that was kind of the vibe I got, just a little bit. It was like one of the things in the movie where I was like, this is one contrivance too far for me, a little bit.
It could be that we maybe just needed more scenes with them actually connecting, if they had that connection that was kind of more natural, because it kind of gets lost when they're at like parties and events and things like that. And then the next scene, they're just like sleeping with one another or starting to smooch. And it may also just chalk up to your whole case where they might just all be sociopaths for all we know too. And that's just
there's a thing, right? Like I had mentioned earlier, like there is a duplicity to every character. Every character is duplicitous, except for John Candy.
Yeah.
John Candy is the only character we spend time with at all that is not duplicitous.
Yeah.
Like you have Susannah York and the manager, they're sleeping together. He's married. She's not, or she's his mistress. You have Elliot Gould trying to rob the bank, trying to steal Susannah York from the manager. Then you have Christopher Plummer, obviously.
You have the new hire as well, that at first thinks she has the hots for Elliot Gould, but then naturally falls in with John Candy as
Candy, and then ends up. I was going to bring that up. Then ends up fucking some guy at a party.
Yep.
Who's like orbiting her, and even at the wedding, there's even a little moment with him and the woman at the wedding where he kisses her and he kind of gives her that long look, like that they're obviously still doing things together. Like, I felt so bad for John Candy in that moment. I'm like, you fucking putz. I feel so bad for you.
Well, I wonder if he's also just in on it. Like, he knows that's going on. He's like, oh yeah, we just do threesomes or whatever. I don't know. I don't think it's supposed to be that.
Maybe it's not supposed to be. But like, I think it's the idea that you have like a chubby guy that's with a smoking hot chick, and he's just like maybe in denial. He's like, well, she agreed to date me. Well, she agreed to marry me. I guess I'm lucky, you know?
Well, I guess, yeah, maybe they were writing his character to be a little bit more aloof. I couldn't quite tell at times because, like, he seemed...
he has no time at all. Like, it's like such passing. And that whole relationship, like you had said before, even Colin makes mention of it. He's like, wow, that was really fast. Yeah. Which he almost works as like a meta joke because because the movie, what does it take place over like 2 months or something? Yeah. And, they're not together at the beginning of the movie, and then at the top of the third act, right before the third act starts, they're getting married. So that's a pretty quick, engagement there.
Yeah. And that's a constant running gag throughout the whole movie. Again, like even the manager, like he shows he's really got the hots for Elaine as she comes through in that disguise. Like, oh, you don't come in here normally, do you? You're not one of our regular customers. It's like,
oh yeah, because he's some guy. Actually, isn't it the guy that's sleeping with the woman?
Yeah,
sleeping with John Candy's girlfriend. That's like,
he's got a whole lineup of just.
It's like he's like, I'd like to get in her box. Like that's what he says. Because you're like, okay, God, you boys.
Well, it shows now.
It was like one of those things. Like, well, it was definitely 1978. We wouldn't actually. Well, you could do that up until about 2007, and then you couldn't do it anymore. But like,
I'm trying to like find the right gauge. Like maybe like post 2011. I don't know.
Well, it's like when I recently rewatched Bad Santa, and I was like, oh, this is like from the last gasp of this era of like being able to be this openly crude and still almost treat it as a virtue.
Yeah.
But
that's not to go on a tangent there, but like even what intrigued me about Bad Santa when I first watched it and why I had repeating viewings of that movie was that you guys brought up very recently in that film how like there is a lot of Coen Brothers influence there, especially obviously they were involved with it, but like just like from a story standpoint and the character that Billy Bob Thornton plays, like there's still a noticeable arc that he does go through these slight changes that make him better than he probably was at the beginning, and I like that attention to that detail while still retaining that,
but not moving a mountain, mountains. And actually, I would suggest that Silent Partner is very similar to that. Like in a certain respect, it's kind of in the same way that like Bad Santa feels like it has the Coen Brothers influence with his characters. This feels like it has the Hitchcock influence of its characters and stuff. It kind of feels like almost like the same kind of idea. Mm-hmm. But the Bad Santa, I think there's more to it than most people, because most people just remember the crassness of it. But there is a little bit more there. I think, like I said, you can go check out our Zoobox Goes to the Movies, Bad Santa. I'm gonna keep plugging them. It is actually, I think we made it a pretty decent case that it's actually a Christmas movie. But
there you go.
Silent Partner, not so much.
All right, well then I got to get a quick plug in there for my first episode of Fleapit After Dark before it was called Fleapit After Dark. But Black Christmas, the Bob Clark classic horror film, one of my all-time favorites. I watch it every year or almost every other year. Check that out. Listen to a very inexperienced podcaster at the time talking to himself about a movie he loves.
You should revisit it, man.
I should actually.
Next year, you should revisit it. Like one of the great things about doing these kind of podcasts, and one of like the fruitful things, is going back to things. Like especially like if you spend enough time away from something, coming back to it as a different person. Like even something like Silent Partner, like I said, like I watched it for the first time like a year ago, and even just a year later, I had like a different experience with the movie. Mm-hmm. That's the great thing about good art, about solid art. It can grow with you, it can change with you.
Yeah.
And I'd love to hear a great long form Fleapit After Dark with a guest. I'm not suggesting that it'd be me, but I'm just saying, because I really like this podcast, so I hope you do that someday.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of like I don't even know how it fully stemmed. I have to go back because I don't typically listen to these once they're out there. I just say, I hate listening to my voice, but I had some cool guests on, and that's all that matters. We talked about some stuff. We talked about life, our struggles, and then we moved on to the next thing. But
wait
ahead,
until you start doing heavy editing.
Yeah.
Oh my God, you ever want to start hating yourself? Fucking listen to yourself for 10 hours. Holy shit. But anyways,
dude, I used to do it's embarrassing to think about now. Thankfully they're all like privated and downloaded, but I got my start like early high school. I was doing that fucking nostalgia critic style of review, like just kind of even if it was a movie I liked or it was something that was good, I was just like talking head right to the camera, hyper edit everything I can with all the footage.
Was the thing. But that was the thing. That was the thing at the time, and especially because Jeremy, you're a little younger than me. Like I can imagine that being actually probably way more of a heavy influence on your life at the time. Like because I was in my 20s by the time like I really ever watched the Nostalgia Critic, and you know what? It was very novel at the time. But I enjoyed it like for what it was at the time. They just kind of kept going and never changed.
Yeah.
But at the time, I can totally see that because I think even myself, I had those impulses to do that. I have my old YouTube channel has like I used to review video games with my brother, and they're very much more like that for sure. Because everybody was kind of trying to do that, or they would be inspired by that because it kind of made you feel like, well, I can do this, I could do that, I could do that. It's like kind of how it made you feel because they're the first people like making this kind of content. Like in their houses, like with very little equipment or crew or whatever. It made it feel like it was possible, tangible. So I can totally imagine that. I'd love to see those. You should send me one.
Oh gosh,
I'll play it on Nightcap.
You have to invite me on that Nightcap then if we're gonna cover some of that. But
okay. Dude, you got it. Pretty much anybody that orbits Zoobox land, you guys have open invitations. So
excellent. No, but you're right though. It's like there's a relatable quality to it, and 15 years later, I just I can't stand Doug Walker's screeching ass. I hope he quits his job. And
the problem with him is that you kind of realize, that is kind of who he is. It's not that much of a character. These are really how he feels about things. And it has done so much damage to like film literacy to an entire generation of people where everybody's like cinema sins. You know what I mean? Like it's that kind of vibe. It's nitpicky to a fault, to a point, like to an absurd point. You know what I mean?
Well, I don't know if you can speak. I mean, I think you can. I'm curious if you can kind of speak to your own experiences, like going through the trends of just movie reviewing, movie discussion, and all of that, and where do you ever get that feeling where you just kind of get kind of bored a little bit with just like the standard, and you want to just keep revamping and do something different?
For sure.
It happens every few months. I'm like, I'm gonna switch things up, because if it's too repetitive, then you start to fall out of love with the craft of it.
Yeah, I could never do something where I felt like it was created on an assembly line.
Yeah.
Like so much of what I like to do is extemporaneous. Like, and that's, I guess, people could criticize me like, well, that's being lazy. But I also think they're the only thing that like, because everybody's doing something on the internet, like so hard to stand out or do anything. Number one, you have to do it because you like to do it. And you can't really worry about it if anybody's watching or cares about it. You got to do it because you like to do it. This is what I like to do as a hobby. And number two is like, don't be afraid to just be yourself and be earnest and be honest. Like you don't need to put on a facade and a character and do all this stuff because then you're just like everybody else. There's only one you. This is very like dad mode advice. There's only one you, son. But that's kind of true. Like there is only one you, and that's really what you can offer. That's what you can bring to something. That's like same thing, whether you're like a writer or you're a director or you're doing movie reviews online or whatever. Make it a part of yourself. Like just care a little bit. Don't be cynical about it.
Yeah.
That's
how I've always kind of viewed it. I mean, it's just like an expression of just where where I'm at and what I
what
love.
you love and where you're at. And it's also cool to have, like, even just for posterity, like I have a record of a time in my life. Like, you know, God forbid anything ever happened to me. Like I have a young kid. God forbid anything happened to me. He can go back and watch me. He can see who his dad was, for better and for worse.
I was say you can watch your Bad Santa review at the spry old age of like 12 or something.
Yeah, 12 or something like that. I could imagine like him watching like an episode of Nightcap or something and just being like, "Oh, there's Dad, drunk and ranting at 2 a.m."
Oh, he said fuck again. Ha ha ha. Yeah.
But things like that, like it's you just have to kind of do it for the joy of doing it. And I think especially in the space of like doing movie reviews and stuff, you know, a lot of people, you know, the stuff that I actually like now are the more like, you know, kind of essayist things. But I don't have the patience for that, to do that myself, at least not right now. I used to do that. I used to just write. That was my main way of doing it. I just had like a blog and I would just write movie reviews and stuff. And it actually started doing very well, but I just couldn't be consistent with it, like at that time of my life. So I never really was able to do anything with it. But, so maybe one day I'll get back to that. Once I get like, because I'm starting to enjoy editing again. It's been a long time since I really spent a lot of time editing, and not to be self-promotional or plug again, but the newer episodes of Zoobox Goes to the Movies for like the past year, I edit them, like, and I do like add, you know, context with film clips and documentaries and interviews with the people that makes the movies, and try to like make it a full-fledged experience, you know.
Yeah.
And that's been a lot of fun, like learning how to do that, because it's not as simple as just dropping fucking clips into a podcast. Like, not if you want to do it well. Like, there's so many things. And, you know, it's the great irony of all that stuff is I know that movie way better at the end of the editing process than I did when I was talking about it.
Yeah. Yes. Because you could even end up hating it. Who knows?
Oh, sometimes I came close with Boogie Nights, let me tell you. And I love that movie. And I was like, I cannot wait to be. I felt like a slave chained to a fucking desk. But that would be like my advice to anybody or anything like that. But what about you? What do you think?
Well,
I mean, so you want to you like to kind of constantly try to find a new niche, or?
I mean, well, to your first point, I whenever I've been guesting on your show, it's been fun to like drop little references here and there. And I don't do it like always on purpose, but like I know that odds are Shaun is going to find the clip and he's going to like put it out there, and it's going to be a funny gag, and it's going to be a good little reference for people to go back and, you know, just have a good laugh at. So I think there's a charm to like getting back into the editing and really
for sure
making it just not like you brought up at the very beginning, just nonstop like talking heads on a webcam the whole time.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, you know, actually, you know, not to plug again, but Jeremy and I did an episode about 12 Angry Men. Like, and I think the visuals on that podcast like helped that conversation immensely. Not that it just helped inform it. And especially if somebody had never seen that movie before, actually being able to watch like the footage play as we're talking about it, even when we're talking about just camera movements and stuff and matching it to what we're saying, which is like, you know, very tedious to do, but like I think it makes a better product. It makes it something that, you know, one of the great things about doing stuff like this is also helping people discover movies. Maybe they wouldn't have watched that. Maybe they had never seen it, and maybe this would entice them, you know?
Definitely. I guess my style kind of ventures into whatever is not necessarily what's hot or trending, but just kind of like what works best right now in 2021. And I think we live in the weird era right now of ASMR and things like that. And where I was kicking off Fleapit After Dark, before I even came up with that title, starting off with Black Christmas, I wanted to just have like an auditory sort of experience.
Yeah.
You can watch the YouTube video with the clip running, but it's meant to be something to be kind of listened to. Like I'm sinking you into this sunken, almost hellish theater world of film.
Sure.
And you're hearing all this haunting music to kind of like elevate just like whatever the film is or what it's about. And as we kind of discovered over the course of the series so far, it's like usually just like the kind of cult movies or the movies that like should still be remembered, but like are still trying to find that place in society. I don't know how else you wanna put
Sure.
that.
Well, that's the thing. There's so much good stuff out there that people don't know about, that don't have wide audiences. And if you can ever be like a part of like even showing it just one person, who cares? Like, right? We love
Exactly.
this stuff. We're passionate about it. We like to. One of the great things about being a movie fan is sharing it with people.
Yeah.
Like, that's part of the fun.
Yeah.
That's part of the experience of being like a film fan.
Yeah.
And that's why I do it for 100%. Like, I mean, I'm not like breaking down the doors with views or anything like that, but like the little ones I get, I'm happy for it. And I hope that, and I know because people send me messages all the time, like just random people. I've never talked to them. Like, hey, I really like that podcast. I'm going to go check that movie out. Or, I didn't really like Boogie Nights before, but now I think I'm going to go revisit it. Like,
Yeah.
That's a cool thing. And that makes it kind of feels like it makes it worth it.
You do have a ZooBox regular now who I think their name is Luma Zuma or something like that. Commented on one or two of my videos recently saying my politics were all wrong, even though they weren't political videos. So I'm not sure what.
Yeah, Luma Zuma is insane. I think they're a little weird.
Yeah,
and I didn't know how weird they were until recently. I was watching. I don't know. It was like I was watching clips about people giving misinformation about the Kyle Rittenhouse situation. And I'm not going to get into that here or whatever. But he called me a racist because I was talking about something a black person said. That's it. I was just talking about like it happened. That was the presenter. That's the news clip I was watching. It wasn't. I had no thought in my head about this is a black person, this is a white person. Like, and I was like, oh, you're one of these fucking people. Like you infantilize minorities because you're actually probably racist. That's the way.
Yeah.
Like it's just like, come on, dude. I'm sorry that happened to you. I apologize.
Yeah, it really just takes communication just to kind of get things across to people. I know we're going way off of the topic here, but
no, we are. Yeah, I'm sorry. I apologize.
No, it's fine. I love this. This is what I live for. But yeah, like especially the last few weeks, and I was keeping up with a lot of your coverage too. Like I was getting so sick of just all the misinformation just coming out there and not.
Yeah, because it's like you could not like that kid. You could think that kid shouldn't have been there, but like, do you want to throw that kid in jail for the rest of the life for what happened? Is that what we're saying? Is that what we're talking about here?
Yeah.
But anyways, but yeah, so yeah, but yeah, Luma Zuma pops up occasionally, like in comments and videos, and they've been around for like a couple of years. I don't know
There's
why.
always that regular, like if you have like those early subscribers when you first started your account, and they just kind of show up like 5 years later out of the blue. They're there. They're stuck
there.
around.
They'll be there, yeah. They get that little notification randomly when YouTube shows it to them eventually at some point. But yeah, so I'm sorry if I
no, it's fine.
Over to your comments, some guy being like, your politics are all wrong, buddy. Because you probably when you hear you talking about some cult trash movie. Yeah, probably.
Oh,
right?
It was Mad Max, I think. And I was
Max.
I was just talking about like I was just talking about the apocalypse. I don't know what like.
Dude, Luma Zuma is a dude that said that he said he's from New York City. He says he's a plumber. I think he's like a middle-aged plumber from New York City. He said that he had been violently mugged 3 times, and felt no animosity towards the people that mugged him. I was like, well, you are a touched soul, my friend. Like most people might at least be upset. I'd be mad. You've been violated. Somebody attacked you and robbed you. It's okay to be mad about that. I think that's pretty normal human emotion to feel.
Well, this is then a shout out to Luma Zuma. You are welcome on Fleapit After Dark if you'd like to guest. I mean, we can talk about whatever.
Oh, that would
be
actually. You know what, Jeremy? I would love that. Please go do like Last House on the Left or something if you haven't done it, and bring him on.
There you go. But I was gonna say, like, apart from the podcast and where I'm at with that creatively, I'm also not only just a film fan, I'm a filmmaker. So I'm making things that I don't see very often right now. I think that I hit a tipping point in like the late 2010s where I was like, everything sucks right now. I really want to just like revert back to, and this is why I cover, movies like this from the 70s. 70s is probably my favorite era because people could just get away with a lot, and just everybody's kind of flawed, and there's just a very grimy, dirty texture to everything, and I just kind of love
the era of the anti-hero.
Yeah. And so I'm kind of just in my own creativity, I guess I'm trying to bring back a little bit of that.
Yeah, a little texture, a little grit, a little personality. I mean, for Christ's sakes, things are, oh my God, things are so boring. Things are so boring, dude. Like, I get so bored with shit. Like, I can't even remember what I watched. I watched recently a newer movie, Jane Campion's Power of the Dog, that Netflix movie with Benedict Cumberbatch and Kirsten Dunst. And
I haven't seen her in anything in, oh gosh, not since like, was it Melancholia or whatever that?
Oh, Melancholia, the Lars von Trier movie.
Yeah,
it was actually pretty.
That was a good,
good, depressing as hell, but it was a good movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jesse Plemons, her husband, was in it, and it was like, well, this is like fine, but it's like so purposefully inoffensive, and it like hits all the right politics of the time, and you're just like, it's just. As soon as you see like these little identifiers, like in a story, in a script, or in a movie, like nowadays, you're like, I know exactly how this is going to play out. Like, this is just, it becomes a foregone conclusion because they back themselves into a corner where this can be the only conclusion of the story. Because if it wasn't, then that would be interesting and difficult. Like, and yeah, they don't really get too interesting. But yeah, like, even or TV shows, most TV shows are awful nowadays. We went through a golden era, I suppose people call it, with like, from The Sopranos to Breaking Bad, essentially.
Yeah.
And then I don't know, man. I find a lot of stuff really boring. Even stuff I thought I would enjoy, even superficially. Like, I thought I would maybe enjoy that Cowboy Bebop show, like superficially, because I enjoy the anime. I watched the anime growing up, and I was just so fucking bored. I made it like 2.5 episodes, and I was just like, you know what? No, thank you. I'm good.
That's that one in particular. Like, I've never understood, and I don't even care and get caught up in this. Like, there's that crowd out there that it gets obsessed over every sort of casting choice imaginable.
Oh, yeah, the nerd bros. Like, yeah, there is awfulness on every side of the spectrum.
Yeah,
when it comes to this stuff, some people are too woke, some people are too red pilled, whatever you want to call it. But yeah.
But my whole thing was like, okay, at least like some of you guys be a little consistent here. Like, let's just break down the Spike Spiegel character here for a second. Like, he brandishes an Israeli handgun. He's got a Mediterranean complexion. He's got a Jewish last name. Let's cast John Cho. Let's cast 50-year-old John Cho and see how that goes. It's like, that
was crazy. Yeah, like I thought some of the casting was bad. Like, aesthetically, like you see him and you're like, okay, I can kind of see, but they're just like, well, it's an anime.
Yeah, it's an anime. So
it's an anime, dude. That was, I think that's as far as they thought.
Yeah. I mean, I don't care at the end. It's like, it's just funny.
No, if the performance is good and the actor was like, it's delivered, which John Cho is not like the worst part of that show at all.
No. Yeah.
They just took a very snappy, jazzy, fun, and also like kind of interesting show and made it boring. They made it boring. And I was shocked. I was like, how the fuck did you make Cowboy Bebop boring? They found a way. Good God, they found a way.
I just saw it got canceled today too. Is that
yeah, it got canceled because I think everybody had the same impulse where it's like 2 episodes in, they're like, I'm out.
Yeah.
See you next time, Space Cowboy.
Yeah. Well. But yeah, and I mean, as at a greater whole, again, like a lot of what I do is reactionary to just how boring and mundane and lame and just like lack of joy there is in just filmmaking.
Not to blow a smoke up your ass or anything, but Jeremy, I think you have a legit talent. I am excited to see like what you got coming in the future, because you have found like this really great place between like there's like a cinema verite to what you're doing, and I really enjoy it. Like there's something like the hyper real stuff like that I really enjoy, and I'm looking forward to see what you do next, just as a fan, you know?
Oh, thank you. I mean, it's always a learning curve with every project, but of
course, but that's a great thing. And I think you are already on a good foot. I think you're going to be fine, dude. Have confidence and just go for it.
Yeah.
Just go for it. If anything, I'll watch it. You know what I mean? That's what I always say. I learned this back when I was in a band. Don't pander. Don't do things you think people are going to like. Do it because it's what you want to do, and you will find your audience. You will find it. Don't. I'm sorry. I feel like I'm just like talking to you like I'm a dad, but I am a dad. But like, just do it. Do that. Like, just lean into your instincts because it'll make it authentic, and it'll always be you. And that's what's important, you know?
Yeah, and I think that's is super important, and I appreciate it too. But you know, just I'm kind of now in like a at least in the social media sense, in the sphere of just guys that are like either like 5 or a decade older than I am, who have done this, have been through some of these hurdles, have seen it, have found their place, have found where they feel comfortable and or confident even in what they're doing, and then they looked at the up and comer and they think like,
buck.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's honestly, it's cool, Jeremy. It's like, I'm very happy to have met you because like, I do think you're a legit talent. And I think like at some point, if you keep going, I think you're going to be fine. Like, and it's going to be cool. One day I'm going to be hanging out with my son. We're going to be popping on Netflix and we're going to watch one of Jeramovi's movies.
Hey, there you go. Now, one of these days, 20 years, we'll have a family barbecue, and we'll just we'll put on whatever we want. Yeah,
I have family up there. We'll be good.
Yeah, there you go. Now, going back to the silent partner,
but this is kind of leans into this conversation because this was an era of filmmakers that did just that.
Yeah,
they made things that they wanted to make. There was not really especially something like Silent Partner, which is like an independent production. Nobody was asking them to make this movie. There's no studio behind it. There's none of that stuff. Just passionate people wanting to make a movie. And that is awesome. And that's like the best part about this time period too. It's right before all commercialization of everything. You know what I mean? In a big way. I mean, there was obviously like big studios and all that stuff in the past. And there's like this little sweet spot between like, it's like 1959 to like 1984. That was like full of just like great, earnest, independent cinema. And it wasn't until like, then we get into the 80s and everything becomes very commercialized again, almost like coming back around to like the early 50s, almost becomes like propagandistic, where they're like, every movie, everything you see is trying to sell you this like lifestyle choice.
You don't want a Turbo Man, Shaun?
Oh, I got a surprise for you. Watch my channel. Actually,
there you go.
Turbo Man, exactly. One of the great ironic Christmas movies. It's one of the most evil, awful movie ever made. I watch it every year,
and somehow it's so great.
It's so fucking rotten. It's so rotten to the core. And it's like this children's film that's just so fucking rotten.
Yeah.
But yeah. But yeah, like, so I think like, this period of film and these people, these creators, and it's interesting. Curtis Hanson actually did this on spec because this is based on a novel, like you said. Think of a Number by Anders Bodelsen, a Danish guy, and they had actually done 2 other adaptations of this book, which I tried to find. I cannot find a place to watch this thing. I couldn't find a service that showed it. I couldn't find a torrent. Couldn't find anything. I looked at both the American title and the Danish title. Could not find this movie.
Time to hit the dark web, bud.
I guess I might have to. Because I was just curious. Because I thought it would be interesting just to watch like the different takes on the material. And then there was like a telefilm. There was like a made-for-TV movie in Germany in like 1973. But Curtis Hanson did this on spec because he wanted to actually direct it. That's why he did it. And they wouldn't let him. And then they end up hiring Daryl Duke, who apparently, because of having a disagreement with the producers, pretty much walked away after principal photography. Because he had nothing to do with the post-production. He had nothing to do with they did like a 2 weeks of reshoots, which Curtis Hanson actually ended up doing. Which brings us to the infamous scene of when Elaine gets decapitated and her head left in the fish tank. Daryl Duke refused to shoot that scene. That's why he quit the movie. Because he thought it was too gratuitous. It was too much. It was unnecessary. But they thought we need like a punch. We need like a big dramatic twist for the movie. Because, there's an exploitative quality to the movie.
That was like a producer decision too, right?
I think so. I think maybe even Curtis Hanson, obviously, maybe he agreed with it, or maybe he just found like he's like, oh, this is the way I can kind of take this movie back that I wanted to direct that they wouldn't let me direct.
Yeah. Because
he ends up doing the reshoots, and then he ends up basically overseeing post production.
Yeah.
So there's a world in a little bit, like, because I don't know, which I'm sure you're aware, like you've shot some stuff, like so much of what the essence of a movie is in post production. Like shooting is one thing, but like post is a big part of it. Like that's when you're really shaping that material. That's when you're really making the movie. Everybody always says the old cliche. There's 3 versions of the movie. There's the script, there's the shooting, and then there's post. And so I think like, I wrote a joke kind of review on Letterboxd where I was like, give Curtis Hanson his due.
Yeah.
I think like Curtis Hanson is largely responsible for the way the movie ended up, and especially if he was involved in post.
Yeah, well, and this was a scene. The first time I watched it too, got a whole like Jesus Christ like moment out of me because it's so out of left field in terms of the violence we've seen so far throughout the film, which is very minimal and very by the numbers, you could probably say.
Well, the most violent moment is Reichel in the sauna.
Yeah,
like that's the most explicitly violent moment of the movie.
Yeah,
before this. Yeah,
and just the image of Christopher Plummer just taking Selena Gomez's head and just shredding it across a broken fish tank. It's just like, geez.
Because it comes so out of left field. Like you said, like there's nothing in the movie that indicates, like with the tone that we've been watching, that's going to happen. Maybe you think he's going to beat her up, slap her around. Maybe he'll choke her to death or something, but not fucking cut her head off and leave the head in the fish tank.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. And I always do this every time, but like it started to open up the type of Letterboxd reviewer who, they'll come up with these weird excuses. They'll say like, I really wanted to like the Christopher Plummer villain in this movie, but he's such a crazy misogynist, and he did this one act thing. Like, it's a fucking movie,
dude.
He's a villain,
dude. I saw a fucking Letterboxd review from like 2 years ago. And somebody was like, I really was enjoying the movie until they decided to fridge the woman. I was like, that's your takeaway? Also, she's like the villainess character, first of all.
And she's a femme fatale in this.
She's a femme fatale, exactly. Like, Susannah York is the female protagonist, if we could say that she's that. Yeah. Like, and she makes it to the end. Like anything that has anything to do with anything like that, they immediately go to this narrative. This I cannot stand motherfuckers who do this. You take a movie from 1978 and you act like it was made a year ago. Like, go get fucked. Even if it was made a year ago, get fucked. But especially get fucked if you're watching like older movies and you're like, this doesn't have the social mores of the moment, of right now, what I like to see.
It doesn't align with my beliefs. Yeah.
Oh, dude, there's a whole generation of film fans that is what they need. They need to be validated and catered to. They need to feel like the purchase of a movie ticket is a virtuous act, and it's really boring. Really boring.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to get anything like, who the hell wants to constantly see their own like feelings and opinions repeated back to them? You know what I mean? I like going to movies for somebody that's got a strong, clear vision, even if I disagree with it. Even if I don't like it, even if I disagree with the message or whatever, I like to feel like I'm in the hands of an artist and somebody like creating something and presenting it to me. Give me things to think about.
Even if it's something like so earnest and so like out of the loop, like a Tommy Wiseau making The Room, it's like at least they're trying to gun for something, Even
at least he cares. At least he cares. Like people could talk shit about Tommy Wiseau all they want. Like at least he seems like he cares about what he's doing.
Yeah.
Like you're getting his honest worldview, which is, a lot of fun. It's hilarious. Do you watch his Fallout movie?
What was it called?
Oh no, he didn't direct it, but he was in it.
There's like 2 parts to it, right? I forget.
Yeah, it was like Best Friends or something like that, and it has both the guys from The Room.
I probably watched like the first 30 minutes of part 1, and then I just kind of checked out.
Dude, I did it. I got through all 4 hours of that shit.
Yeah.
Suffer.
Although I saw Greg Sestero directed his first movie recently.
Oh, did he?
This year? I don't know what it's called. It's a thriller of some sort, and it does not involve Tommy Wiseau, as far as I know. But
probably stars Devon Sawa. Devon Sawa is
Yes.
in tons of cheap movies right now. Actually, you know what's actually ended up being okay? Black Friday. I don't know if you heard about it. Bruce Campbell, Devon Sawa, Michael Jai
I
White.
wanted to check that out. I saw like a clip or like an image of it. Like I'm a Bruce Campbell fan, so it's like obviously
me
I
too.
want to. Yeah,
that's why I ended up watching it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was totally watchable. Pleasantly surprised. Better than I expected it to be. Nice twist on zombies too. Nice little original twist.
Okay.
That feels like inspired by like something Romero did, but also doing its own thing. Better than I expected.
Well, speaking of Romero too, like this could make in a weird way a fun double feature with Dawn of the Dead, which came out the same year, with that mall backdrop setting. If you want to like consider that, because it's like, although I would say Dawn of the Dead is like a little bit more intent on like mocking the consumer's culture, and the commercialization, which for the time was very popular. And now that we're at the point where we're at now, it's like we're just in it. We can't
we can't escape it.
Yeah.
Because now actually Romero's like, even Romero is like now so part of popular culture. He is part of the commercialization
exactly
after his death.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I could. Yeah, that would be like a fun, kooky like double feature. Like do like the mall movie night. Maybe you could end it with like Chopping Mall or something.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, do Dawn of the Dead, Silent Partner, and Chopping Mall. That's what I would say. That's the lineup I would have. You want to have. Oh, maybe no. You know what? I take it back. Chopping Mall, Silent Partner, Dawn of the Dead. You got to end on the best. You got to end on the high.
Yeah.
You got to end at the top.
Yeah.
And I would say that is in delineation from quality. It would be Chopping Mall, Silent Partner, Dawn of the Dead.
Nice.
Chopping Mall is not very good, but it's fun. It's a fun movie to watch.
This is going to be trouble when I first brought you in here.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Have you ever seen Chopping Mall?
Oh, I have a great memory of watching Chopping Mall in a very drunken bar with a fun crowd. But like this was like I this was probably by the time I turned 22, and I was near the end of college. They made a screening out of this at like a local bar, and we were having a fun time the whole way through.
I wish
right down to the climax.
I would love that. I wish I had a place like that around where I live that just showed like retro movies and like had retro movie nights or something like that.
Yeah.
My wife and I even discussed semi-seriously. I'm like, should we find a place to like open a drive-in? Can we get like a small business loan to like open a drive-in? We've seriously thought about it. There is one where I live or near where I live. It's like 45 minutes from me. So I don't know if I would want to do that to them. They're very nice people. Because I actually contacted them. It was before COVID, and then COVID happened, so I kind of lost contact with them. But because I wanted to go and like shoot some stuff up there, I just wanted to like maybe do like a little short, like a little mini doc about my local drive-in. I thought it would be cool. So I'm gonna reach out to them again once I get some better equipment. I'm still using a Canon Rebel T2i. That's how far back my camera. So it was like 2011, 2012. That was like the top of the line for the Canon Rebel series. Now they're at like 8i, 9i or something.
From one indie filmmaker to the other, like no judgment from me. Like I shoot a lot of my stuff right now on the what's the series I have now? It's the Canon XC15, which is like a DSLR camcorder hybrid, but it does the job. Like,
dude, it looks really good. It's slick footage. Like, is that what you shot the pig one on and stuff?
Oh yeah, Stewie. That was all Stewie pretty much.
Dude, the footage looks great. It looks slick.
That camera though is being repaired at the moment. I jammed the lens somehow, and it's an internal lens. You can't separate it, so I'm getting it fixed. But
no, I've thought about because I thought about that. I was like, oh, I want to get a new camera because I want to go start shooting some stuff. Maybe like do like little like slice of life docs or something, just for fun, just for practice editing, kind of get back in that mode. And I was like, well, should I just get like an iPhone 13 Is that what I should do at this point? Because that thing is fucking cool. Have you seen the way the camera can do? Go look what the iPhone 13 camera can do. It's crazy. It's like very impressive.
It's almost wanting me to convert because like I've been an Android guy my whole life, but
I've never owned an Apple product, period. And then I saw the iPhone 13. I was like, oh shit, dude, you can even rack focus.
Yeah.
Just on the fly by tapping the fucking screen. I was like,
wild.
God damn, dude. Make my life so much easier.
All these other phone companies, like even Google Note and all these other guys, like they're not really hammering it into the camera quality of what their other than like very slick designs that they have and formats could probably handle, but it's just not the focus with them.
Well, because they're trying to keep the price down, because that's the thing that makes Androids competitive with Apple products, because Apple is such a premium price. But when I was looking at cameras and then I saw the prices, I was like, well, it's really not that much more to just get the iPhone 13.
Yeah.
But I'll probably end up with another DSLR, to be honest with you. That's probably what's going to happen. I'm gonna go find I'm gonna go on eBay and find like one from a couple years ago for like $400 or $500. But whatever, I have an extra $400, $500 laying around.
Sure. Yeah, I'm trying to think what else we can say. Yeah, Curtis Hanson, going back to him real quick. So yeah, he gets really big with LA Confidential. I was gonna bring that up at one point.
Yes, actually, I was too, because that's one of my favorite movies ever.
Yeah.
Even from growing up, so it probably has some nostalgia tied to it. But
same.
Very, very into that movie. I don't know. I just think it's like a nearly perfect movie for what it is, right? For what it's trying to accomplish.
Yeah. I grew up around that film. We had it on VHS when I was a kid.
Yeah.
But I didn't watch it until like after I played like games like LA Noire and stuff. And I was like, oh, now I'm missing all the influences, but now it's all piecing together now. What a great ensemble cast.
Oh, dude, that's why when LA Noire came out, I was so excited.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh, dude, I'm like playing LA Confidential. This is awesome.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, but that movie is so good, and that's I think Curtis Hanson, he's got a weird filmography, like the types of different genres he's touched. And I remember I went to see 8 Mile in the theater because I really loved LA Confidential, and the movie he made after that was either Her Sister's Shoes or 8 Mile, and I ended up seeing 8 Mile with my cousin, and I only went because I wanted to, because I was never an Eminem fan. And I wanted to see Curtis because it was the new Curtis Hanson movie. And I was like, and 8 Mile is not a bad movie by any stretch of the imagination. But for some reason, I was expecting something different. And it's kind of, it was one of the first instances in my life where I understood journeymen. I understood that. Guys that can just execute regardless of genre, regardless of the kind of story. They just can they can wrangle this together, because that's so much of the work of a director, is just being able to wrangle fucking people together.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I was looking at some of his other film work too, like The Bedroom Window with Steve Guttenberg's been on my list forever. I want to check that one out at some point. I've always been a supporter of the Goot. You gotta
the Goot
whenever he shows up. But also I saw on Letterboxd he has a film called White Dog, which the short synopsis is: a trainer attempts to retrain a vicious dog that's been raised to kill black people. Sold.
Oh damn! I didn't even know that. I didn't know that existed at all.
Yeah.
What else he did? Oh, he did Wonder Boys. He did The River Wild. That was
River Wild. Yep. That's a good movie.
The Hand That Rocks the Cradle.
Yeah.
Which actually I only watched for the first time a couple years ago. I'd never seen it, and I thought it was a sexy thriller. I was like, oh, it's not a sexy thriller at all.
I always thought it was kind of aping off of Basic Instinct and what's the other Michael Douglas, Glenn Close movie? Oh my God, why am I blanking on it? I know Fatal Attraction. Fatal Attraction, yeah. I like that kind of scenario.
Well, that's what I thought. I thought it would be more like that. And but it definitely came out around that time where that was the zeitgeist thing, was adult sexy thrillers.
Yeah.
There was a whole slew of them in the early to mid 90s.
Yeah.
And I thought it was going to be more like that. I was like, oh, Rebecca De Mornay, she's probably going to be topless or something.
Yeah.
No, not really. It's just a crazy nanny.
I just imagine though, every mother who saw that film at the time must have hated that nanny to death.
Oh my God, that movie! I don't think it's a bad movie or anything, but but there's some stuff in there that's like so dumb that it's like very unintentionally hilarious. Like the handyman, like they got the handyman that works at the yard and like all the stuff that happens with him.
Yeah.
Like, okay, guys, this is definitely 1992.
Yeah.
But yeah. I mean, Curtis Hanson though, like this is a cool place for him to start though. Like, cause like this was him when he was young and he was coming up, and it's crazy because he's an American guy. He's not Canadian. So I don't know what the hell he was doing and going to the Canadian government trying to find money, because he wanted to direct this. That was what he wanted to do. He wrote it on spec, like I said, and yeah. I mean, I don't know if there's anything like in here that you could say it's like, well, that's definitely a Curtis Hanson flourish. I don't think so, but it's a cool little thing, and it shows you how long he was doing this before anybody knew who the fuck Curtis Hanson was.
Sure.
You know, this is like 1978. Like he doesn't have a hit until basically The Hand That Rocks the Cradle. That's like 14 years later.
Yeah. Well, I think it being a Canadian production, getting Daryl Duke on board, getting a score by Oscar Peterson, who'd never scored anything else too. It's like people and Elliot Gould on board. Everybody's coming from different places, and it just all kind of naturally. It was like
Pride. It was like Canadian Pride.
Yeah,
because like the government was financing it through their arts program. It was like a big deal to do we're going to make a Canadian production. Like it's even billed as a Canadian thriller.
Yeah.
Like, so there is like that. So I imagine like somebody like Oscar Peterson, who's a Canadian guy, like, you know, there's that national pride that they had, and they wanted to contribute to the success of the film. Mm-hmm. And that's actually the score is actually really interesting. I really like the kind of the flighty, jazzy nature of it, which I feel like was kind of in a lot of movies of this time. I'm like thinking of like The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I was thinking of that.
Was it David Shire? And
with Walter Matthau in that movie too. I was thinking about that.
Walter Matthau and oh my God, what's his name?
Paulie.
The drunk, and also the drunk guy from Jaws.
Oh crap!
No way. I can't remember his name. Oh my God! Hold on. I will. I'm gonna shoot myself.
Yeah.
Robert Shaw. Oh my
Robert
God.
Shaw.
Like
That's
fucking right. God. Like one of my favorite character actors. Like Robert Shaw, who's great in that movie, but the score is so rad in that movie. The vibe of that score, like the opening theme, is so good, dude. I used to walk around. I lived in Boston for a while, and I would just like, I was like a pedestrian. I would just like walk from work to my apartment, and I would just have the opening theme playing while I was walking, just on repeat. Just felt like the coolest motherfucker in the world because I was riding subways. Thought it was cool, like, you know, just me being a complete, utter film nerd at like 19.
Yeah.
What are you listening to? You listen to that new Modest Mouse? Nah, dog. I'm listening to David Shire Taking a Pelham 1, 2, 3 opening theme music. Like the cool thing about Silent Partner is that it makes you want to talk about a million other things as well, you know?
Yeah.
Because there's so many things, like even with something like Silent Partner, that was probably influenced so many other things that we liked. And it's cool to go back and see the kind of little seeds that were there.
Yeah.
Even just like somebody like Curtis Hanson. Oh, Curtis Hanson was involved in the Silent Partner?
Mm-hmm.
Holy shit. Like I didn't know that until I saw the Silent Partner. Like I did not watch it with the knowledge that Curtis Hanson had anything to do with it the first time I watched it. I just watched it because I was watching movies of that time period kind of, and it was like a pleasant surprise. It was a cool little connection because I have such nostalgia for LA Confidential in my own personal life, like as a kid, because I was a weird kid. Actually, I have a funny story about LA Confidential. I bought the VHS from Blockbuster used. So I used to buy everything used from Blockbuster. And the store clerk would not let me buy the movie because I was only 13. I had to go outside. He went outside and asked my mom, who was waiting in the car, if I was allowed to buy it. And she said, yeah, because my mom was cool. So,
nice.
Yeah. So that I've been ride or die LA Confidential for a very long time. It'll probably end up on an episode of Goes to the Movies at some point.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, just keep doing that.
But like, is in terms of the silent partner though. What's your okay? So what are your what's your big takeaway from the movie? Like, what are you left with at the end? The credits roll on a silent partner. What's Jeremy thinking?
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. I'm the one who recommended the film. I have to come up with a big, bombastic explanation. No, I think for me it was just it felt like I was still just kind of watching a classic. Kind of again, like at its heart, at its core. I didn't feel like there was any time wasted, or there was any sort of just apart from maybe the decapitation, which was the forced thing in post.
Well, it's like a Deus Ex Machina. Like it's like this thing that like really like throws you into a very dramatic place very quickly, you know?
Which I don't mind, given my sensibilities, and like I love exploitation, so it's like go nuts if you want to, if you have the means. But like I think there's something kind of solid here that speaks about just like how even in like our day-to-day lives we cannot predict everything we think we know about somebody, even if we do, just even the people we work around, the people we know, 100%. The people we live with, and just always, I think it's almost like a cautionary tale to just always be on your guard in a weird way. Like, I mean, look at how like
be paranoid. They might be trying to rob a bank.
Yes. Yeah. And how much do you care about your job or your own like life and your own safety? Like, cause like, how often, I mean, if for whatever reason, like Christopher Plummer can just wander into your house at any time, it's like,
Especially Christopher Plummer in this, yes.
Yeah,
maybe it would be okay if he was in a different movie, but this character, not so much.
Yeah. No, I think it's a solid heist thriller. I think it really works well and serves with the Christmas backdrop. I think the Christmas quality of it complements it. It doesn't have to be there, but I'm glad it is there.
Just adds a nice texture to it, right? Yeah. Like I said earlier, like makes it feel familiar without having to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like we all recognize these things. And it's just, and it's also, there's, I suppose there's some sort of dramatic irony about the idea of Santa Claus trying to rob a bank.
Yeah.
And that's provocative and that gets you into the story. And I mean, my big takeaway from this is like, I was just kind of impressed with the craftsmanship of it more than anything, like how tight it is. There is, like you said, there's no time wasted in this movie. It's all about production. Like it's all about just moving the story and the characters forward. There's very little downtime. You could even maybe make an argument, even when it gets a little like lackadaisical in the middle there, but it all still feels like it serves a purpose. You could maybe make an argument that like it could have maybe used 5 or 6 minutes of breathing room to build out some of that stuff with Susannah York, especially. Because if there is one weak element of the movie, I don't buy that Susannah York would do that, other than the fact that like if you think about this in terms of archetypes, she has to, because that's the kind of story we're watching. I'm not sure if that feels like the most earned thing, but like that's like such a mild criticism. It's not something that bothers me. Just in the spirit of what we're doing, I would bring it up. Like I wouldn't bring it up if I was just recommending it to a random person. I wouldn't be like, oh yeah, you should watch Silent Partner, but that Susannah York stuff, I don't know. Like I wouldn't say that. I would only in the context of like, purposefully being critical of it.
Yeah.
And it's a cool thing. It's like another one of these things, even like when we watched 12 Angry Men on my podcast, it's like, it's cool to see like the entire history of what had come before it with the genre kind of utilized. It's smart filmmaking. People that are paying attention and learning from the people that came before them and utilizing that in new and interesting and creative ways. And like I said, it is Hitchcock's. It actually feels like the heir apparent to a Hitchcock movie, without feeling like it is a Hitchcock movie. And I thought that was really cool. Is being because I'm actually a fairly big Hitchcock fan.
Sure. Sure.
And it was so I really I respect it as much as I like it, because I think it's just it's a cool, like, idiosyncratic, unique movie. Like, even of the time it came out. While there are other movies that like play with these same themes, the anti-hero, kind of bringing back kind of a noirish vibe.
Yeah. The jazz and the tone.
Like the jazz, the jazz and the tone. A lot of other movies kind of did that at that time, but I feel like this one feels very unique, and maybe that's the Canadianness of it. I don't know. But it does actually add something to it. Like there's just something here that I feel like is worthy of people's attention.
Yeah.
Because it's a fun movie. It's fucking fun. Christopher Plummer is a riot in this movie. He's great.
He's having a great time.
He's like Al Pacino in Heat. Yeah. Like he's having the best time of his fucking life. Yeah. Like maybe not as little less big than that, but like he's just having a good time, chewing the scenery, having fun.
Yeah.
And he's very clear. It's just another thing, as a person that has like, worked on some movies or very small productions and done things myself. When you can watch something where you feel like people enjoyed making it, like you can feel that, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep.
Because it adds to the chemistry, it adds to the kind of the vibe, the atmosphere of it, and you could tell they were just having fun making this thing. Like,
Well, yeah, and yeah, it's like kind of the opposite. Like you look at like an Evil Dead and you read about just the making of that and how nobody was having it
was arduous. It was arduous, but I guarantee, but the day-to-day of something like that. Like
exactly.
It's hard. It's hard work.
Yeah.
But it's also, you're enjoying yourselves, and if you got good company, it's worth it, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say one little final touch I want to bring up about Christopher Plummer's Harry's character. Yeah, did you notice like his very crazy overgrown coke nails that he just like kind of?
Well, that's what I was talking. Yeah, that's what I meant.
Off.
Like about like there was this fayness to him, like this fey, effeminate nature to him.
Yeah.
Like even with his like the necklace he was wearing, the way he would wear his shirts, the way he would even kind of carry himself.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that seems like very coded for like bisexual, gay, or maybe that's just like part of the sociopath kind of experience where he's just such an open opportunist. He's the kind of guy that he would just fuck anybody. He just does whatever he can with whoever he can, whenever he can. And that's kind of like where Elliot Gould's character Cullen, that's what I meant about like the parallels. Like there is this sense of, while they live in different extremes, there is this kind of parity between them a little bit,
Yeah, that's what kind of holds their tension together a little bit. And I wonder how much of that was Christopher Plummer kind of giving it his own thing, or if that was like a creative decision on either Duke's part or Hanson's part. But like,
or if it was part of the novel, like that's the thing. Like I tried to find a copy of the novel. I could not in any form. And I tried to find the old Danish movie, just because I was curious, just for posterity,
Yeah.
Do my due diligence here. So I don't know if that was something that's baked into the character, or if that was a Christopher Plummer thing. I wouldn't be surprised if it was a Christopher Plummer thing, though. Not at all.
Not sure.
Just like the little character details and stuff that just make, because none of it's explained, and I love that. Like it's just like these little ambiguous character traits that give you a little sense of something extra.
Yeah,
like he's not a boring stock villain. There's a uniqueness to him that is really fun. Like it's such a fun character.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like I said, that's that first phone call scene with Elliot Gould and Christopher Plummer in the apartment, and they're having that banter, and then Christopher Plummer ends up looking through his mail hole there. Like fucking awesome. Just so wonderful interplay, wonderfully like edited and put together scene. And the whole movie's like that. I think you could take a lot of scenes in isolation, especially the stuff with Christopher Plummer, and they're really good. They're very entertaining.
I'll finally say, like, people will notice that there is certainly a large part of downtime in the middle portion of this movie, definitely. And nothing surmises that the best than just John Candy sitting back, slouched in a chair at a party, some guy just handing him another like freshly brewed beer, and just like, chug, to our good years, let's have a good time.
Yeah
And that sums up I wouldn't say the general tone of the movie, even though there's hijinks and robberies and violence and all that dark stuff.
But it's so
still
laid back.
Keeps a laid back tone. Yeah.
Up until the end. Even when it gets crazy, it still kind of feels laid back. And a lot of that is predicated on how Elliot Gould's character Cullen reacts to things.
Yeah.
Like that's what I meant about like the Hitchcockianness of this is that the character controls the tone. So we as the audience are vicariously looking through Cullen. And if Cullen doesn't freak out, the audience doesn't feel like they need to freak out. Because even though you see a fucking head in a fish tank, it's not as crazy as like it would be in other movies, right? Like another movie would do like a fucking hard zoom and there'd be like strings playing and it would be like this dramatic, and then it would cut to Cullen being like, oh, and like falling backwards or something. No, he just kind of looks at it and he's like, oh shit, I got to get rid of this body. Like that's what he thinks immediately.
Yeah, I'm going to throw her in the landfill where they're going to build the new bank.
Yes. But that's what I mean. Like that's what I meant about like his character being unscrupulous from the beginning. He gets that banknote, he sees what's written on it, and he thinks light goes off in his head. Oh, I can do something self-serving here. Yeah. He finds a woman's head in his fish tank. He's like, oh, I better do something self-serving here. Yeah. Like he's not like, I should call the police. I should do something. No, he doesn't do that. That's it. Well, I guess that's another. It's like, well, you could call, like, who's going to believe Christopher Plummer? If you call the police and Christopher Plummer's like, well, this guy actually robbed the bank, who's going to believe him?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Maybe that's my naivete. But
yeah. No, and it's I would say it the premise itself, I think, is what makes it stand out. And I don't know. I found a new holiday classic now. I'm glad I got to watch this year, and I'm glad you as well have found like a huge interest in what it explores and what it does. Because this is, again, I think I'm very careful. Like obviously the context matters and like who you associate with matters, but like if you know you're into this sort of niche subculture of film, or camp or whatever you want to call it, like, you know, I think there's more ways than one where you can probably introduce this to somebody else who might not know that they're interested in seeing it. I think there is like this tiredness with a lot of just like the Christmas stuff that comes out now. Not to be topical, but we recently had this new animated Sarah Silverman project or whatever, Santa Incorporated.
Yeah, it was Santa Inc. with what's his name?
Seth Rogen
and Sarah Silverman. Yeah. I watched 2 episodes out of morbid curiosity, and it's just the same joke driven into the ground. Oh, if anybody's ever seen the movie Sausage Party, it's like Sausage Party with Santa Claus, and that's it. And they think it's funny because they're Jewish.
When you're a kid, there's only one day a year more special than any other day, and that day is Christmas. And we are the magic behind that day. So let's get these fucking kids some fucking presents.
Isn't it funny when a cute Rankin Bass elf like says fuck every 10 minutes?
Exactly, and flashes Santa Claus. And they're like, oh, and then it's very overtly woke. Like, where it's like when you feel like you're listening to somebody read from a social studies book, like in dialogue, you're like, oh, guys, come on, like we get it. Like you could at least please put it in the subtext. So you don't need to tell me. Like I'm not an idiot. Like you don't have to explicitly tell me. Like, why isn't there a woman Santa Claus?
Well, does well, I wonder. I haven't watched it at all. Does it turn into like a Hanukkah series by the end? Is that like the whole point? Or no?
I mean, I haven't finished it. Yeah, I might finish it for my holiday season. I've been preemptively watching holiday movies for like to do holiday movie reviews on my channel, and I thought about doing Santa Inc. because a lot of the movies I've watched I've never seen before and I haven't liked. So I was like, well, you know, might as well just continue on.
Yeah.
I'll just continue on with this. Maybe I'll do Santa Inc. But I watched like 2 episodes. It was very late at night. I wasn't giving it a fair shake, but what I saw I was not super impressed by. It just wasn't very funny. Like you can only crass holiday stuff is only funny for so long. Like you have to actually have like something else to it. And it just felt very shallow and empty. It kind of in the same way, if anybody's seen Sausage Party, it reminded me of that movie. Like, that just like, it's just like, okay, you have a premise and you think your premise is funny and that's all you did. Like you just, okay, you have a funny premise and that should carry us through. And you're like, no, not really. Like you actually have to write a story and you have to have characters and real jokes. You can't just tell the same joke over and over and over again. Like I watched 2 episodes and it was like, there's like 3 jokes and they just do it over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
I was honestly kind of shocked how lazy it was. Because you see the internet reaction. Oh, everybody reacts to the trailer negatively and blah, 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 blah. It's like, well, I don't really care about that kind of stuff. Because honestly, it makes me want to watch it more. Things that I like people say are polarizing will actually make me want to go check it out for myself.
You get curious. You're just like,
yeah.
Yes.
I mean, people are very tribal, and people kind of suck sometimes. And it's very easy. Like there's a lot of wings of social media and YouTube and communities and stuff where they just reflexively hate things on both sides of political spectrums. They just reflexively hate things. And I was like, well, maybe Santa Inc. is a reflexive hatred of something because of who's involved. So I was like, all right, well, I'll give it a shot. I kind of gave it a shot. I was not super impressed. I might suffer through it just to be able to talk about it for that sacred content. But other than that, I don't know if I would watch it otherwise. That's another thing when you get older, you're just like, I cannot ironically watch things anymore. I can't watch things that I think are going to be bad or I feel are bad anymore. Like there's too much good shit out there. It's just too much good stuff. Like something like The Silent Partner. Okay.
Yes.
Like there's things like this out there that most people our age, my age, and your age have not seen. There's better ways to spend 2 hours than watching something like Santa Inc. I guarantee you. Okay. Like I guarantee you.
And here's my word of advice. If you decide to go watch Santa Inc. out of either interest or just morbid curiosity and you don't like it, don't worry. You can go back to YouTube and you can watch the opening of The Way of the Gun, a movie I've covered on this channel before, and you can watch Sarah Silverman get decked in the face. It's great. But anyway,
watching those people develop politically has been monstrous. It's really mask off these days. Everybody's just awful.
Yes.
Holy shit, man. Dear God, like Seth Rogen's like, who cares if people steal stuff out of your cars? Like it's cool, man. That's what you living in the city.
Sarah Silverman at the Adele concert. Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. And he must have paid somebody to get that trending. You're like, oh, Seth Rogen smoked weed somewhere. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, everybody.
It's out of character for him. How dare he? Yeah.
And now Sarah Silverman's also like, maybe we should have a civil war. And you're like, what is going on? What has Tim Pool done? The beanie has really done some damage here. Now Sarah Silverman's talking about the goddamn civil war. Yeah, exactly. If he had any integrity, he had any courage, he'd be like us.
Santa hats.
Christmas the fuck out, dude. I got my well, you guys can't really see it, but this is a Home Alone ugly sweater. Okay. It says Merry Christmas, you filthy animals.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. I am completely into commercial Christmas now. I've become a monster. You're
a consumer now.
I have a wife. That's what happens when they buy you things.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know if you ever have this because like, it's Christmas time. So I guess this is appropriate. Like when you're a film fan, like what do people buy you as gifts? They're like, because most people think film fan and like general nerd are synonymous. So I get a lot of stuff. It's like one time I told somebody I like Batman. So like I get Batman shit every year. Like I got Batman toys.
Yeah.
I didn't buy these things. I didn't buy those Batman toys. These are here, to pay homage to the people that paid money for them. or just general nerd things. They're just like, oh, you're a nerd, right? You like this? Yeah, you must like the big. Oh, you like the Big Bang Theory, dude? I remember my grandfather was like, you like the Big Bang Theory, right? Like, no, I've never even watched. I have no interest in watching it.
You're not a fan of Young Sheldon? What is this?
What are you doing, dude?
No, my whole thing with gifts is that in terms of giving, at least I like getting people things that I know will be useful to them, that they will like, that's not on their lists or whatever. They've got one that I know they will like. It speaks to their quirks or their interests or whatever. And then for me, it's like, I don't really need or want anything necessarily. I just, I would love to be making more money.
Tell me about it, right? It's like, hey, could you just stuff a bunch of money in an envelope and give it to me?
Yes.
Like, please. No, these are great. These books are great. These books are great that I'm never gonna read. But can you please just give me $15? No, well, I just like my experience as like a film fan, and everybody knowing in my life knows I'm really into movies. If you came to my house, you would see there are just movie posters and Blu-rays and movies everywhere. I just got shit all over the house.
Yeah.
I have a very cool wife, who is like really puts up with that stuff because she's like actually has gotten into it enough where she like will artistically frame and hang my movie posters for like the Lawnmower Man. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, like that's what I got hanging on my wall. And so people see those things and they're like, oh, you're like nerdy stuff, dude. Here's some Funko Pops, like stuff like that. I have like a fucking tons of Funko Pops. People buy them for me because they think like, oh, you like Die Hard? Here's a John McClane Funko Pop. Isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, that's great. Thank you.
I appreciate the courtesy of it all. Thank you so much.
And like some of these people come to my house, so I have to display them.
Shaun, I own one Funko Pop, just one. It's Yakko Warner from the Animaniacs. In my office. That's where he stays. I don't touch him. I don't go near him. This is where
I hear a lot of our like the mutual people in this like little mini cinema circle. They're always talking shit about Funko Pops, and I'm always like, ah, shit, dude. I have like 30 Funko Pops in my house. I am part of the problem.
I'm no stranger to making fun of that stuff, but it's like, we all to some. I was joking with Jerry Jensen, and like when we first crossed over, I think we were talking. No, it was the second time when we were talking about the Duelists.
Yes,
and how like everybody, like every normie, is just buying those fucking those Walmart shirts that you see. Like, oh, I'm gonna get the Goonies shirt, but they've never seen the Goonies before or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then like
I grew up in a time where you had to pay premium prices for stuff like that.
Yeah,
you really had to like that fucking thing to go to Hot Topic and pay $30 for a T-shirt. And now you can get them for $7 at Walmart, and it's just not cool anymore.
Yeah.
Like it used to be cool to have a Pulp Fiction shirt.
Yeah.
It's not cool anymore.
Used
to be cool to have a Halloween shirt. It is not cool anymore.
I discovered that going to college, like you can't, Fight Club posters everywhere you look.
Shit. Oh, that was what
Requiem for a Dream. Yeah.
Ironically enough, Fight Club is what did all this shit. Like,
yeah.
Which is hilarious because of the themes of Fight Club. The commercialization themes and the themes about destroying all that stuff and moving past it. Fight Club is one of the most commodified things out there, especially for young film nerds, right? Like Fight Club stuff. You can go to Walmart and buy a Fight Club shirt.
Yeah. At the time, it was too edgy. It was too controversial, and now it's like, oh, you just buy one. Yeah.
Well, it has like the meta commentary of the movie is like that would be like that is the what the movie is screaming about. It's the idea that you could buy that at a Walmart. Like it's like so crazy to me. But I had a Fight Club poster too.
We all did.
I did. I had a Fight Club poster and a Jessica Simpson Rolling Stones poster, and then an Amy Winehouse poster.
Okay.
What a weird person.
Yeah.
Like I was just like, I don't know why. I don't even know why, Jeremy. It's just like those things, just like culture sometimes is overpowering and you're young and you don't understand things and you're just buying whatever
you can. I mean,
I'm thinking about it right now. I'm like, why did I have a fucking Jessica Simpson poster? Amy Winehouse, maybe I could understand Not necessarily because I thought she was like some hot mom or anything like that, but I was just like, as an artist, she was, in terms of pop artist, she was okay.
Sure.
But I don't know. Anyway, sorry, I apologize, everybody. Apologize.
Yeah, where were we? I don't even remember.
The Silent Partner is a good movie, and you should watch it. Daryl Duke, the director, he didn't really do much after this. Mostly a TV director.
Yeah.
But this right here, a worthy entry into the gritty 1970s anti-hero noir film canon, I would say.
Yeah.
Give it a go. You should. You're going to like it. Trust me.
And
Siskel and Ebert liked it. You're going to like it.
They liked it. That was the big surprise too. Yeah, I was like, all right. Yeah, they were on board.
They championed it. And that's another. I'll end on this. A lot of people shit on those dudes. I don't love everything they've ever said or anything, but they did champion a lot of weird small movies sometimes. Just as much as they shit on them, they did champion them. The Silent Partner was one of them.
And if you don't go out and watch The Silent Partner one of these days, we will come over to your home and pin you down with zip ties and make you watch it.
Yeah, exactly. Jeremy's got a Blu-ray right now. He just got the Blu-ray today in the mail. We will bring that Blu-ray. Is that Kino Lorber?
As Kino Lorber. Yep.
That's a Kino Lorber edition, dude. You're going to get some very stuffy commentary.
Yeah.
If Kino Lorber is good at anything, is having the driest fucking commentary on the planet Earth. Oh my God.
You guys are going to look forward to hearing from Howard S. Berger, Steve Mitchell, and Nathaniel Thompson. Enjoy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Only people like us listen to that stuff, Jeremy. Only people like us are excited. Like, oh,
yeah.
Silent Partner commentary? Nice. This is Saturday nights all figured out.
Night for the boys.
Yeah. Yeah. The night is for the boys. Me and the boys hanging out, pour yourself a nice glass of scotch, hang out, listen to the Silent Partner commentary, and try not to fall asleep. Because that's the reality with, I've noticed that. I don't know if you have with Kino Lorber especially, is that they are the driest fucking commentaries. In movies I am very excited to hear commentaries for, I'm like, oh, like it's some guy reading an essay to me for 90 minutes. And I'm just like, oh, it's not extemporaneous. It's not like exciting. It's not like in the moment, like I'm watching it and I'm talking about it. It's like, no, you're listening. Sometimes you're just listening to an essay for 90 minutes.
Yeah. Well, now I probably don't want to listen to this.
Oh, do it. No, you got to, dude. Every film fan, you got to suffer through those things. Come on.
All right.
If I listened to the Kolchak, the Night Stalker movie commentaries, which is literally that. It's literally people reading essays.
All right.
You'll be all right. You'll be all right. But yeah, actually,
take one for the team.
Do you have a favorite Christmas movie? Since this is your Christmas episode, do you actually have like a Christmas specific, like something that you watch every year? That is specifically a Christmas movie, not Christmas related.
Yeah. I think I'm still weirdly attached to Black Christmas as a whole. It's kind of what started this whole thing and why I keep coming back to that film every couple years.
Black Christmas is a great movie. Also, Bob Clark.
Yeah.
He directed A Christmas Story, which is which is an interesting.
It's the two contrasts.
It's one of my favorite, which is one of my favorite movies to watch actually this time of year. Usually I wait until around like Christmas Eve or something to watch it, but mostly for nostalgia. But sure. I think it's a pretty solid movie.
I would say though, in terms of like nostalgia and where I've kind of turned over a new leaf recently, even though there's a lot of scenes that are still kind of hokey and dumb and for the family and not really.
This fucking guy watches Elf. I'm sorry.
I know. Yeah. Right. No. But Ron Howard's The Grinch. How the Grinch.
Oh yeah.
Was.
Yeah. It's all right. It's not bad.
All right. It's not bad. Like here's the.
It's a weird movie.
It's a weird one because when you read the script, so many of those jokes land. They're actually hilarious. Like every reference that gets dropped into that film, right down to like Jim Carrey saying like, "It's because I'm green, isn't it?" or something like he can't hail a taxi. Like it's so bizarre, and it also like it feels so in line. Like it would make an interesting double feature with Jingle All the Way in terms of just how mean spirited they write the Whoville Who's to be in that movie. and how consumerist they are too in that,
which is so antithetical to the actual story.
Yeah, yeah.
Like if you go back and watch the old like 28-minute cartoon, the Who's are like these ambivalent, super nice,
spiritual, holy,
like almost spiritual beings that like are just above the commercial aspects of Christmas. They're above it. Like, you know, because the Grinch comes, he steals all their shit, he takes all the ornaments and all the presents and everything, and they still have Christmas. Because Christmas is not about all that stuff. And the Grinch didn't understand that. And in this movie, the Who's think that's what Christmas is about. In the Ron Howard movie, explicitly. Like it is a weird ass movie. So like I agree, like on a meta level, on a meta textual level, I really enjoy Ron Howard's The Grinch because it's such a weird oddity.
Yeah, yeah. Dude, like when the Grinch is being birthed and comes down onto the snowflake, they're having a fucking key party. Like,
I know.
Right next to it.
It's
like,
so weird. It's so weird, dude. That was also the time of like Shrek and stuff, where it's like they made children's movies with tons of coded stuff for adults.
Yeah.
And I remember the studio, like I remember listening to people talk about that, like even back in the day when I was like a teenager, and they'd be like, "Well, you know, we gotta have adults need to enjoy these movies too." I was like, why? You telling me adults can't sit through 90 minutes of children's humor? They'll be fine. You don't need to make fucking sex and fart jokes in your PG kids movie. Come on now. I'm not a Puritan or anything, but let kids be kids for Christ's sakes. Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
But you know,
yeah, bah humbug, you know.
Bah humbug.
That's the other. Yeah, like I always think about A Christmas Carol every once in a while, and actually, I will say It's a Wonderful Life is probably my other go-to every year now. Your review of that last year, when I started following some of your content, like I was like, oh, that actually kind of hit me hard because every time George cries in that scene, like it hits me. Like I'm not even in that position that he's in, and I relate to it so hard. I'm like, oh my God.
You know, if I have time this season, I don't know if I'll have time. I wanted to take that episode and edit it, like with the movie footage.
Yeah.
Because I actually really enjoyed that conversation, even though my friend Big Paul there is a Grinch. Sure. He's our resident Christmas Grinch.
Yeah.
But yeah, that movie is, oh my God. Like I don't know if it's just like age or something. It's just like that. Everything about that works for me. It just clicks, and I really love the idyllic nature of it, and the fact that it deals with some very real shit.
Yeah,
some really dark themes in that movie, and part of like the great message of it, the hopeful Christmas message of it, is that you can get through it. You can come out the other side, and like you know, to me, that's what makes a Christmas movie. It's about like the spirit of the season. Something it has to engender and promote the spirit of Christmas season. Even kind of stereotypically, like, you know, about charity and about community and about selflessness.
Sure.
And something like that is kind of the archetypal prototype for that. It kind of that movie almost like develops that theme for the season almost, you know?
Yeah. Well, and if the last like 21 months have shown anything, especially in regards to that film, like I've always been somewhat aware of this, and I'm working to be more aware of this, but like, you know, just being so thankful and grateful and appreciative of just the people you have in your life.
Exactly.
Your friends and your family, and just like it's like
and community and
the community that you build. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And the people in the little places you live, and how much it's like the power of connectivity, and like how a little bit of selflessness and how of the little tiny micro things we do actually affect people's lives in very big ways.
Yeah.
And it's just a nice sentiment. It's a nice sentiment. And I think of Christmas time as more of a positively driven season. Even with all the commercialization and all the bullshit and all the stuff surrounding it. I do kind of like, the older I get, like the more I like Christmas. And I think part of that for myself personally is like having my own family and stuff.
Yeah.
Like that really makes it a thing. Because you can experience it like vicariously. Like I get to experience it vicariously through my son. Like, so that's really cool. It's like being a kid again. like watching a kid open up presents, like open up that cool toy that he wanted and all that stuff, it feels like you're opening it, like you were when you were 8, and your dad got you Grand Theft Auto 3.
Yeah. Yeah, he had a little too much eggnog. He's like, the kids will play the game, whatever.
Oh my god, dude. Yeah, no, we were wild abandoned. We were video game people, like in my house, and when I have a distinct memory, we got Grand Theft Auto 3 for the PS2. They let us open it on Christmas Eve. We played it till like 7 in the morning, up until my mom woke up, and then we opened presents, and then we all took a nap.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You had that family culture around. Just
Yeah. My dad was cool like that. Yeah.
Nice. Well, I'll revert the question back to you as we kind of close here, but like, apart from The Silent Partner, what is a go-to classic for you? I guess the all-time for Christmas. Maybe we've already brought it up, but like,
I think, It's a Wonderful Life is ranks pretty high.
Yeah.
I would say A Christmas Story actually ranks pretty high for me.
Okay.
I really like that movie because I like the idea that you can have, even though it's like idyllic and simplistic, it has like a complicated family dynamic, which I don't think a lot of people like. It's like something from a bygone era, like where families could be complicated and different, and you could have an angry dad and a doting mom, and still, even though they have those things, they still feel like real people. Even though they're kind of archetypal in a certain way. And I really enjoy those around this time of year.
A family dynamic that's not very fragile.
Yeah. Not very fragile, exactly. Those are the two that like stick out in my mind the most. But I kind of hit everything, and I'll watch like some version of the Christmas Carol will be played at some point. I tried that Guy Pearce. Did you see the Guy Pearce one? Like the BBC did like a very dark miniseries.
A buddy of mine has been trying to push this one on me for the last couple of years, and I still haven't gone around to it yet. But
it's not bad. It's just the most dour version of A Christmas Carol I've ever seen. But it's not bad. Like somebody's like pissing on themselves at some point, and then you're like, whoa, oh, Scrooged.
Scrooge is good.
Christmas,
I hadn't seen Scrooge until last year, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
oh, wow. Did you like it?
Yeah, I liked it.
Okay, I was curious because I don't like for some of these things, like I don't know if it's like nostalgia, like, well, I grew up with it, like, so I just kind of accept it, flaws and all, like I don't see it for what it is. And I've never done like the podcast critical treatment of Scrooge, so I almost like don't want to, because if I did, like, maybe what would I find and what would I have to admit about it? Scrooge,
I find the Danny Elfman score of that film so haunting. It's so good, actually.
I'm not big.
It's peak. Yeah, I'm not a big like Danny Elfman fan, but like that's like one of his like more solid. Where I was like, whoa.
Yeah, well, it's when the Danny Elfman soundscape feels appropriate.
Yeah.
Where it doesn't always feel appropriate because he has that very distinct style. It's like two movies. There's like Scrooge and like Edward Scissorhands, maybe, where you're like, oh, the score is actually perfectly matches the material, and there's nothing wrong with that. But those are the ones that like come to mind. Like, It's a Wonderful Life is probably like the big one in our house. I was gonna say Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, but that's a Thanksgiving movie. People try to lump that thing into Christmas time, but it is not a Christmas movie, folks. It is a Thanksgiving film.
I rewatched that after you guys had reviewed it too, or
no, it was just me. Yeah, it was just
me. You review. Yeah. Because I hadn't seen it for many years. It's good. It's very good.
It's just a solid, simple, funny movie.
Yeah.
And it makes no illusions. Doesn't try to be super deep or anything. It's just there for gags, kind of. And but it has like that really good heart to it that I responded to. Yeah. Dude, I'm becoming such a stupid softie. I really am. I'm like, I watch things like that and I start like blubbering. Like I'm watching like Trains, Planes, and Automobiles, be like getting emotionally invested in John Candy's character.
I do want to see somebody out there. If it's not going to be me, I want to see this John Hughes documentary about where he went wrong or what happened or what, just like the downfall of he was at his peak and then Home Alone 3 and onward. It's like,
well, John Hughes creatively stopped.
Yeah.
After he did what Curly Sue. It's like I don't think I've ever even seen. It's like from 1993 or something. That's the last thing he was like directly involved with.
Yeah.
And I think, if I'm not mistaken, he just quit because he like went to raise his family, kind of like Rick Moranis style.
Okay.
If people don't know this,
I respect
like
that then. Yeah.
Rick Moranis like decided like his wife I think passed away, and he was just like, oh well, I'm just not going to be an actor anymore. I'm just going to raise my kids. And that's what happened to Rick Moranis. Which you're like, oh, good for you. Hey, if there's a reason to disappear, good for you, man.
I feel bad now because in my Twitter bio I said like I do have bootlegs in my basement of Rick Moranis and Brendan Fraser's buddy cop film that they filmed like circa 2001 or whatever.
Did they do that, or is that real?
No, it's not real. I just made something completely up for to make my bio seem interesting, because that's all you gotta do.
I was gonna say, I was like, I feel like I would have heard about that.
Yeah.
Some shelved ancient Rick Moranis, Brendan Fraser movie. I'd watch it.
Oh yeah, totally, dude. Like as I was typing that bio, I was like, oh man, I would actually watch this.
Yeah. There's a fun Twitter account that's like these alternate universe interesting movies where they'll like pick a topic or a book that they adapted and like cast it. And sometimes they get fooled. I forget like what the Twitter account is. I'm like, oh wow, what the fuck is that? That looks awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, they're not real. They're not real. But yeah, I mean, the Silent Partner though I think it's a good addition to the Christmas season. You know, like, is it about Christmas? No, but it's got a bank robbing Santa Claus, but played by Christopher Plummer, and like, you know, where else are you gonna get that other than the Silent Partner?
This is the other bit of advice I would give to the normie crowd out there. Like, enough with the whole like, oh, did you guys know Die Hard is a Christmas movie sort of narrative, and just fucking put on the Silent Partner and then show that to people.
Yeah,
if you actually like the movie. Yeah,
if you're gonna say fucking Die Hard is a Christmas movie, then the Silent Partner is a Christmas movie. Then
yeah,
I've hated this hipster conversation that's been going on for fucking 10 years.
Yeah,
Die Hard is not a Christmas movie. Okay, it takes place on Christmas. It's not a Christmas movie. I'm sick of it. I'm done with it. Stop saying it. You know, cynically. This is not an intentional self plug, but you know they made like Die Hard into like a children's Christmas book.
Did you know I heard about this. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
So last year, just to like get like, I was like, oh, maybe I'll get some views or something. I bought the book, and then I did a dramatic reading with like showing the whole book on my channel, and I've never felt worse about anything in my entire life. I have felt like a sellout ever since I did it. Don't feel good about it. It's there though. You can go look it up. It's Christmas time, everybody. Go look up me reading a very Die Hard Christmas. There you go.
This is the clown world we're living in.
Yeah.
But this is where we're at. Children's books. Okay.
Oh yeah, when they're taking all this nostalgic shit like from the 80s and 90s and like turning it into things so their parents think are cool, so they buy it for their kids. Yeah, that's a real thing. That's a real thing that has ramped up a lot in the past few years. Even like Alien. Alien has been turned into a children's book. Like an ironic children's book. Because they think like hipsters are going to be like, oh, I like Alien. Like I grew up watching that. I'm going to buy this for my kid.
Yeah.
Just let them watch the movie like I did. Be a real man. Okay?
Yeah.
Be a real parent. Let them watch the movie. My son has been talking about face huggers for 2 years. What is your kids doing? He actually even got like us kind of in trouble at school. He went to school. He's 4 years old. He's like, do you know what? He's like, yeah, like the xenomorphs and the face huggers. They grab your face and they lay eggs in you.
Your son is so based. That's awesome.
Yeah, he's very based. He's very based. Almost too based. I had to go pick him up from school the other day. He's so based. Yeah. Well, he goes to a very nutty, crunchy school.
Yeah.
And so he was trying to unlock the door and escape.
Sure.
And they were like, you need to come get him. I was like, okay. But
yeah, I mean, I was the same way in middle school where I was just like dropping whatever Yeah, if it was alien related, it'd be like getting everybody on that train.
I mean, that's the way I grew up. Like so many like bonding experiences with in particular my father were like surrounded movies. Like, so we were watching like, all the classics. We were watching like Aliens, Terminator 2. Terminator 2 was like in heavy rotation in my life as a child. I used to rent Pippi Longstocking. If anybody doesn't know what Pippi Longstocking is, I used to rent Pippi Longstocking and Terminator 2. I would beg my mom to rent those movies for me, and she did. She did.
Double feature, bitch.
Yeah. Watching Pippi Longstocking save a horse from a burning building, and then I go watch, the trials and tribulations of John Connor.
Yeah. There you go. There you go. I mean, we all have our, no, absolutely. I was going to say, like, I know we got to maybe come to a close here. We're now clocking in at 2 hours and 15 minutes. But one other film, I would say, if you haven't gone back to it for Christmas, the first one at least, even though I love the whole franchise and I'm excited for the fifth one, if Mel Gibson directs it. But,
yeah, dude.
Lethal Weapon. Watch
Lethal Weapon. Lethal Weapon,
Yeah.
We could, if we live in a world where Die Hard is a Christmas movie, then Lethal Weapon is a fucking Christmas movie.
Exactly.
Yes, 1000%. 1000%, dude. Yeah, and I'm excited for that. Like, he announced that he would be directing it, and I was like, oh, cool. Let's do it, man.
I'm down. Let's do it.
Please, somebody make Lethal Weapon 5.
Yeah. Before
I don't
Danny
even know
Glover.
why. We shouldn't. Yeah, before Danny Glover dies. But we should not, as a society, as culture, as film fans, we should not want a Lethal Weapon 5.
No.
But we all want it. We all want it so bad, though, because there's never really been a truly bad Lethal Weapon movie. Like, 4 edges as far as like maybe that one gets close to being bad, but you like those characters so much, you have so much fun with the actors and stuff that you're just like, I don't give a shit.
We need like a pure excuse for the line, I'm getting too old for this shit, because the actors are officially getting too old for this.
That's going to be in there. It, dude. It was in there in 1998 and it felt real. Like, it's going to be there in 2022, 2023 version.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Hasn't been a Lethal Weapon movie since like 1998, and they're going to make another one. Well, I mean, they already made Lethal Weapon 5 technically on It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, Lethal Weapon 5. But I am so down. I'm so down. I really Mel Gibson should call Shane Black and be like, yo, write this script. Let's do this. Do it for real. Give me a real Lethal Weapon movie.
Get some It's Always Sunny cameos in there too. I feel like that would be a cute touch, probably.
Actually, yeah, Glenn Howerton, throw him in there somewhere.
Yeah.
It's crazy because it's so crazy that like Richard Donner was talking about doing that up until he was like died. He was like 90 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was his last movie? 13 Blocks. Is that what it was? The one with Bruce Willis and Mos Def.
Yeah, I didn't see that one, but I remember the trailer for it when it came out.
It's fine. It's fine. It's not like an awful movie or anything like that, but not the best one to go out on. I guess maybe Tarantino has a point. Don't become an old man director.
Yeah.
Leave a little something there. Leave a little something. A little mystery.
Yeah, and just party the rest of your life. Just if you built your legacy by the age 30, there's I don't know, cruise through the rest of life the best way you can.
What would you do with it if you had it? The money, I mean.
Well, I'm not sure. It's not that much, really. I mean, you just couldn't live on it forever, could you?
Well, what would you do?
I'd wait a while to make sure nobody suspected me. And then I'd go away somewhere. Far away. I suppose I'd use the money to buy myself another chance. It's just a daydream.
A nice daydream. Would there be room in it for 2?
I guess we'll close here. The Silent Partner. We both recommend. We both enjoy. We both love. Shaun, anything you would like to plug out there for the listeners? We've covered so much, but I know you've probably built your platform in slightly more places maybe since we last interacted. I don't know for sure, but anything out there you would like the listeners or the viewers to check out from your end?
Yeah. Come over to Zoobox on my YouTube channel. It's a Zoobox podcast, which is really no longer a podcast. But if you look up Zoobox podcast, you will find my YouTube channel. Also at Shaun Zoobox on Twitter and Zoobox podcast on Instagram. Those are the places to go, basically, just to check out what we're doing, what we're up to. If depending on when this comes out, there's going to be a lot of Christmas content on the channel coming up in the next few weeks. So if you're into that, there's some out of left field things there. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. Some surprises there. I've already filmed some stuff. I've already focus tested a few things, and we're good to go at least on a couple things. We're good to go on at least on a few things. So there's some fun going to be had over on my YouTube channel. Also, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I do live streams called Nightcap, which we get into all sorts of weird internet subculture stuff. We watch videos. We learn about weird cults, antinatalists, pedo hunters, pedophiles, anything you can really think of that is like weird internet trash stuff that we go looking for. We have a massive episode of it's called a series we have called Goes to the Internet, about a living meme who goes by the name of Jesse Lee Peterson, coming out very
amazing.
Soon. Yep, that guy. That's the guy. That's the one. Amazing beta. We're gonna be filming that this weekend, and that'll be up probably around the new year. Probably I might save it until like the day after Christmas. But that's gonna be up there too. So you can, if the list of videos we're gonna watch is any indication, this is going to be very long. So you're gonna have lots of things to do on Zoobox. But yeah, that's where you can get me. Thank you, Jeremy. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, of course. Check out Shaun on all those platforms. They are putting out a lot of interesting and crazy and wacky and weird stuff from all ends of the aisle. They are not, very exclusive to one topic or one thing. They, Shaun especially, like they're exploring some cool and some very scary and some very weird ideas out there. Antinatalism being one of them.
Oh, you found that, did you? Yeah, they found me too.
Yeah.
I'm getting emails from them.
I got into a squabble with somebody recently over some of that, like, because I didn't really know what it was until like you had brought
Nobody
it up.
does, Jeremy. There's like 50 of them, and they all know each other, and they're all friends, and they all send them to each other. Oh my god, dude, I'm serious. I have like emails.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Be careful out there, dude. All of us. And you can follow me and find me at Jeremobi on Twitter, on Facebook, on SoundCloud, where you'll be hearing this, and on YouTube, where you will be watching this. I do plan to have a somewhat live premiere of my director's cut of Tape Deck. It is a short film about haunted assortment of tapes that are all real. They're all archived, and they are warped into a narrative. I'm really excited to get that one out there.
Yes.
That's about it. That's about all I got at the moment. Check out Stewie the Demon Swine if you haven't yet. That's out there too. That's all I got. Shaun, thank you so much for coming on.
Hey, thanks for having me, Jeremy. It's always a pleasure, and this was awesome to talk about The Silent Partner, honestly, because who else is ever going to ask me to talk about The Silent Partner? So I was actually really excited. Like when you sent me that, I was like, oh, awesome. And that was actually the last time I was on Fleapit After Dark, when you sent me be like, hey, you want to talk about Ravenous? I was like, oh shit. It's like the stars were aligning, because I had just bought Ravenous, and I have had a personal history with it. So very happy to be here, man. Thank you for having me. And I'm sorry if I talk too much, everybody.
No, it's always a pleasure to have you on. We'll be doing more crossovers, I'm sure, in the future.
Oh,
and
100%, yeah.
Always a lot of fun. Always a lot of tangents, and always a lot of good times to be had, and merry times given the festivities of the holiday. Everybody out there, for when they hear this, have a Merry Christmas, have a Happy Holidays, a Happy Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate, whatever you do this time of year. Massive shout out to all of you for listening and checking us out. And have a good one and look forward to 2022. Thank you, Shaun.
Thank you, Jeremy. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas.